your cell phones. Today's hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. Now, I would ask all those who come forward to speak to an application today to use the microphone provided to ensure that all the discussions can be heard clearly. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990, as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must complete a decision request form. These forms are available in the hearing room at the end of the horseshoe. Please ensure that you include your email address on this form, because the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. Once completed, please give the card to committee staff before you speak, or leave it in the black drop box at the end of the row where the staff are seated, down here. Now, you may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances, to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment. Now, some applications are contested, others not. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications have individuals present other than the applicant who wish to address the committee. I will call each item in the order it is listed on the agenda and will ask for individuals to identify themselves. If there are people present in interest, then an application will be held until all the non-contested applications have been dealt with. If an item is held, we strongly encourage the applicant or the agent to meet with the interested parties outside the hearing room to discuss and/or resolve the issues. Now, if you're going out these doors here on my right, they open automatically and stay open for a long time. So that if you're out there discussing an application, please move away from those doors sufficiently far that the noise doesn't come back into the hearing room. If no person is present in interest, the item will be called in its order on the agenda for non-contested applications. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if requested by committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. And I'll comment to you when your 5-minute mark is approaching. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium here and clearly state your name. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. If you have a written submission from which you read, please hand it to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. when you are finished. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain extensive revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised, to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, people wish to speak in interest, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear your views. However, covering the same points is not required and will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker. When all speakers are finished, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut, however, only to those issues which were raised by the speakers. And that will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the chair and committee members confirmed the minutes of the last public hearing?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest by either panel or staff for items in this time slot on the agenda? Thank you. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
I've had no requests, but I don't know if anyone in the room is interested in closing or withdrawing their file.
Anyone wishing to close a file? Seeing none. Are there any applicants who wish to withdraw their applications? Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Not in this morning time slot that I'm aware of.
Thank you very much. I will now vet the agenda. Application number 1, A1, 102 Earl Grey Road. Applicant present? Thank you. Anyone in interest to speak to that application? Application number 1, 292 Euclid Avenue. Applicant, please. Thank you. Anyone here to speak to that application? Number 2, 331 Oakwood Avenue. See the applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? Application 3, 59 Glen Manor Drive. 3 and 4 will. Applicant, please. Thank you. Anyone in interest on that application or those applications? No? Number 5, 603 to 611 Sherbourne Street and 4 to 6 Howard. Applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? Yes, there is someone in interest on that one. Thank you. So application number 5, Sherbourne Street, Howard Street, will be held. Number 6, 16 Shaftesbury Ave. Applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? Yes. Number 6 will be held. Number 7, 18 Blandford Street. Applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? Yes. 7 will be held. Number 8, 407 Annette. Applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? Thank you. 8 will be held. Number 9, 130 Crawford. I see the applicant, thank you. Persons in interest then? No. Number 10, 18 Muriel Avenue. Applicant, thank you. Persons in interest? Number 11, 12 NOTTAWA Avenue. Applicant, thank you. Anyone in interest? There is, yes, on number 11, NOTTAWA Avenue. It will be held. Number 12, 96 SUMMERHILL Ave. Applicant. Persons in interest. Number 13, 202A Bloor West. I see you, thank you. Applicant. Persons in interest. Seeing none, number 14, 197 King East. Applicant, thank you. Anyone here in interest to speak? Number 15, 157 Symington Ave. Applicant, thank you. Anyone to speak on that one? Number 16, 11.5 Palmerston Avenue. Looking for the applicant over here, thank you. Anyone to speak on that one? Yes, there is. So number 16, Palmerston Ave will be held. Number 17, 241 Quebec Avenue. Applicant, thanks. Anyone in interest? Yes, there is. 17, 241 Quebec will be held. Number 18, 26 Croydon Road. Thank you. Applicant. Anyone in interest to speak? Yes, there is here. And number 19, 786 Palmerston Ave. Applicant. Thank you. Anyone on that application, Palmerston Ave, to speak? Finally, for this segment, number 23 Billings Ave. Thank you. Persons to speak to that application? No. So, to review, the following applications will be held down. Number 5, Sherbourne and Howard Street. Number 6, 16 Shaftesbury. Number 7, 18 Blandford Street. Number 8, 407 Annette. Number 11, 12 NOTTAWA Ave. Number 16, 11.5 Palmerston. Number 17, 241 Quebec. Number 18, 26 Croydon Road. So again, I encourage those parties to talk to each other in this available time. In the hallway, please. Okay.
If we could ask everybody to clear out the room fairly quickly, please.
I will ask everybody, please, good that you're taking advantage of the time to speak. Please clear the hearing hall. So that we can continue with the other applications.
It's coming. It's coming. Don't. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Supposed to have one, yeah.
Again, can we please have quiet in the room? Thank you.
Good morning. Graham Barrett, agent for the owners of 102, Earl Grey. 102 Earl Grey Road, yeah. It's Thanks very much, and thanks to staff for rescheduling this promptly. I appreciate it.
Good morning. My name is Diane Ng. I'm representing the owners at 292 Euclid.
Have you seen the report from the planning department at all?
I spoke to the planner earlier.
They're requesting conditions. I'm just wondering if you've had a chance to review the conditions they're requesting?
He didn't really ask for too much information besides just the planning to have front access, which is a vertical lift. But the owner said that we may not need to do that. So as long as we get awarded for the back rear addition, we will do the access from there.
So planning department has put, I don't know if you've gone on to the application information center and checked the file, but there is a memo from the planning department dated February 20th. And they're asking for conditions should the committee approve the application. They're asking that conditions be imposed on the matter. And I was just wondering if I guess you haven't seen those. There's no way for me to give you a physical copy because we're now paperless. But the conditions they're asking for is that the enclosed front porch requiring the front yard setback variance shall be no greater than 1 story in height. So they want to limit the front porch to 1
Correct.
story. The setback from the front property line for any floor above the 1st story shall remain at the existing front yard setback. So
We are maintaining as is.
and then it says the third condition is the second floor rear balcony must be constructed and maintained with permanent landscape screening or opaque privacy screening along the north and south edges of the proposed balcony to a minimum height of 1.5 meters. So they're asking for screening on the rear second floor balcony.
No problem. Yes.
I guess that's not in the ordinance, but
Yes.
okay.
We've been communicating with the shared wall neighbor, Mr. Weiss.
You were familiar with the conditions and if you had any issues, but
That's no issue. We are complying with that. No, it doesn't. It's as is, yes.
I'm going to second it.
Motion to approve by Mr. Nichols.
Me too.
Good morning, Sir Chair and committee members. My name is Stephen Chi. I'm planner with Design Plan Services, while the authorized agent representing the owner of 31 Oakwood Avenue.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a moment while I read the materials that we're working with. He has before it by work from Also a letter. Presentation with respect to this application.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you please speak to the parking issue? One of the things that big to me when I was reviewing this is that you're asking for a variance for zero parking when 5 is required. Sometimes we see parking studies and whatnot. I know there's a letter from the counselor in support, and she has spoken to the fact that there will be some assistance perhaps facilitating drop-offs and pickups. So maybe if you could speak to that, that's one of the issues that I have that I'm interested in.
Okay, so I'm just going to break down the parking requirement. So under the zoning bylaw, the building is required to have 2 parking spaces for the residential dwelling units. And the owner of the property have confirmed with us that the current tenants, they do not have any cars, and they're going to make sure in their rental agreement in the future, they'll clearly identify that no parking space will be provided to the tenants. The proposal also required to have 3 staff parking for the day nursery. So the subject property is located on Oakwood, which is well served by transit. A TTC stop is actually right next to it, like 60 meters away. So like you said, pickups and drop-offs is going to be proposed to be facilitated curbside right in front of the property along Oakwood. On-street parking is also provided in nearby streets, which is also within walking distance. There's also a public parking space that's like 70 meters away, which can accommodate any needs for additional parkings.
Sorry, just to back up a minute, you said the parking requirements are for the residential portion and then 3 spaces
For staff, yeah.
Is there no requirements for parking requirements for drop-offs and pickups?
No, there's no requirement for that. I think that's not required under the bylaw, yeah.
Okay. And how will drop-off and pickups then be managed? Is there spots in the front, or how, can you speak to that?
Yes, I think.
Not a parking lot, or I don't know if there's a area to pull in, I don't know.
Right. So I think the owner and is going to be speaking to the councillor to facilitate this. Maybe have a spot in front of the property, or right around the corner. It's going to have a spot for them for specific hours for pickups and drop-offs. Yeah.
How many children is the nursery for? I thought I saw 10, but I could be wrong. I don't know. How many?
So right now, we're proposing to have 54 kids. Yes. Yeah.
So large. That's going to be dropping off typically in the same kind of window of time.
Yes,
You
correctly.
need to have a plan in mind, strategy to handle
Yes.
6 or 7 parents arriving in the same time. What is your plan, please?
Well, so I think at this moment, we're not thinking of that right yet, but we will definitely meet all the standards that's required, whether it's by the city or it's by the ministry standards, to make sure the pickups and drop-offs gonna work at the location. And also, we are serving a lot of local residents that's in the area. So there's a lot of people who's going to be walking their kids to this facility as well. So it's not just going to be a lot of pickups and drop-offs. Yes.
Do you have any sense of children arriving on foot with their parents?
We didn't do that studies for this committee at this stage. Yeah. No, we didn't do any analysis of that. How many percentage of parents will be? But that is an area of young couples, young families that will have children and needs the daycare to be in that area.
So who then oversees or deals with the drop-off and pickups and making sure that they're in a? Is that something that the applicant's going to need from like the ministry or somebody else to show that, I know you need outdoor space. There must be requirements somewhere.
Yes.
I thought it was in maybe a zoning bylaw requirement or something for spaces to accommodate the drop-off and pickup. But can you explain to me where those standards are and who will oversee that? Like if this gets approved and you go off, then what?
So there is nothing. So this is not under the zoning bylaw. The requirements for pickup and drop off, and I believe, I'm not too sure because I am not familiar with the ministry approvals for daycare. So there could be some sort of standards under the ministry approval process for daycare.
Chairman, my questions were the same as Ms. Valentini's. You have before us two requests for variance, and one of them is to reduce parking, substantially reduce parking. I am concerned that you don't have a proposal for drop-off. I'm not comfortable leaving that for a future date.
Okay.
I have one of these facilities very close to where I live, and there is a dedicated drive drop-off, and it serves people in the local community, and the drive is full all the time.
Okay.
I'm nervous about approving a variance to reduce parking to a level that I think is unreasonable without any kind of an understanding of how drop-off will take place. Notwithstanding the councillor's goodwill in assisting with solving the problem, you haven't convinced me that you have a solution, and I think it's a very large issue, and it's very pertinent to what's before us today.
Right. Is it okay for us to defer this application so we can come up with a parking plan to be submitted?
The committee will deal with the application now.
Okay.
Chair, I'd like to echo my colleagues' sentiments as well. Zero parking spaces seems, especially when you're dealing with little people. These are very little children. You mentioned 50 odd number of kids. Yeah, 54, whatever the number was. But even if you have 10 to 15 people who use vehicles, that presents a problem. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that the application at this point in time not be approved.
Mr. Wyatt?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Move on to 59 Glen Manor Drive and 61 Glen Manor Drive.
Yes, good morning. My name is Leo Mastandrea, and I'm the agent for the owners at 59 and 61 Glen Manor.
Thank you, Leo. Please. On 59, we have an applicant. We have a previous decision. Staff reports
Neither, I'd just like to know if the applicant is aware of the planning recommendation. Can you tell me, have you had an opportunity to review the recommendations from the planning department
Yes, and we're fully in agreement with them because we met with planning.
on both applications?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you speak to, just when I reviewed the matter and looked at the area, a few things struck me. One was the wall height, and the other was the floor space index that you're asking for on both of these applications. They,
Yes.
in my view, seem to be high. So can you speak to how that relates to the how that fits in with the current character of the area and sort of what the other, maybe even, can you tell us what the current floor space index is? Because you're asking, permitted is 0.6, and I know you're tearing down and new houses up.
Yes.
You're requesting like 1.09 and
Which is consistent,
7.
very consistent with what's happening on the street. Actually, at number 12 and number 14, they're at 1.37. I have a whole stack if you like, but
What kind of, are those single detached? Because I noticed the street as well. On the opposite side is obviously those classic beach style.
correct.
I don't know how many units there are.
There's semis, I believe.
units,
Yes, well, yes. Some have 2 units, some have 3 units.
And down the street on this side as well, there's other multiple residential unit properties. So
Correct.
you say 1.37. Are those multiple units? Are they single units?
Some are multiple and some are single. I have some photos, if you like. I can show you a few of them. But the consistency, there's a lot that are over 100%, some as high as 200% as far as the floor area is concerned. Yes. So this is at the corner, and that's 137%. So 1. No, not at Queen. That's at the Hubbard. That's the lake. Correct. This. Looks like it's stacked towns. Yes. And then if you look beside it, the stacked towns are here, right? Semis well that are well higher than what we're asking. That's on Hubert. That's just two.
Two semis, okay.
Yeah. There's this one here at 57 Glen Manor, which is very similar to what we're asking.
Oh, yeah, that's the neighboring property.
And this is the one actually.
Well, so what kind of density are we talking about?
The density is very similar to what we're asking.
Okay.
This one here. We're the property. No, we're one over from that. We're right on the corner. So on this one, if you look at the house behind us on Avion, that's similar in nature as well as design, as well as wall heights, as well as floor area. And that's a better picture of it. You can see how high the walls go up. That's right behind us. And then this is across the street from that, which is again.
So, but are these single detached dwelling? Are they multiple units? Because often when you see multiple units, you see the density go up, right? Obviously, so.
Right, but these ones are, the one behind is detached. These are multiple units, but this one before. That's. And then on this, on Hubbard again, there's that's attached. This is actually right at the corner at Queen. Got very high walls.
Whether these properties were subject to variance approval, the various examples you just used.
Some of them I have here with me. If you like, I can give it to you. And we did meet with planning, and some of those concerns were their concerns. For example,
You need to.
1.55.
Say the microphone. Put it up on the overhead.
62 Hubbard?
Yes,
And that's a detached? Yeah, let's see what it says.
that's at 1.55. There's another one I have for, I have a whole stack actually, if you want, I can go through them. Corner, Glen Manor, Hubbard, at 2.13%. That's That's the one at the corner, the first photo I showed. That's 1.3%. One at 1214 Glen Manor, 1.37%. This one's a good example. 62, the semi-detached, it's at 1.55.
Multiple unit.
Well, planning didn't have any issues with the FSI. They had issues with the height, which we reduced about a half a meter to accommodate their concerns. So initially we were
The reduced amount or?
correct. The that's the reduced amount. It was in the 11 and change, and so we met with planning a few different times to address their concerns till they were satisfied, and that's why we're satisfied to apply the conditions to their report.
The concern I have is similar to Ms. Valentini. This is subject to a consent as well. And,
Well,
it's a delegated consent, but my understanding is that still has to be given. The question that raises to me is, if a consent is successful, it's only possible to deal with what you're proposing with really substantial variances. I would argue that these height and floor space index variances are really substantial bylaw, and which brings into question whether even the consent makes sense then. Does it make sense to sever the property and create these two very small properties that you need to have major variances in order to accommodate the buildings? Or is the consent fine, but are the buildings too large?
well, to answer that question, we have existing two lots already. They're two semis detached, so they're two separate lots, except one is 18 and one is 22. So the reason of the consent was so that we could make them both equal at 20. That's the only reason for that consent. Otherwise, they are two separate lots.
Okay.
And the footprint, I'd just like to show you one thing. The footprint of the existing is actually larger than what we're asking for. Now, purple is the two dwellings, excluding the garage, we're only at 1638. Even if we add the garage, we're at 1854, which is still smaller footprint than the existing two dwellings that exist today.
So does your FSI include the basement? I mean, the basement's developed.
No,
No, so that's
but the FSI is,
that's why I was asking, do some of these examples you're giving us have the FSI that includes multiple units? Because often they're in the basement and the FSI gets driven up.
only on the,
So I appreciate the footprint you're saying is smaller.
right.
Going up 3 stories, so.
Yes, but we have other decisions on the street that have similar or much higher, some in double what we're asking for. And even if you do,
Townhouses, they were a block of. So.
the one on the corner, but the one I just showed you at 62 had 1.5%. So even if you remove the basement, you're still around the 100 and change ratio. And initially, planning did not have any concerns with the floor area whatsoever.
Floor area to me and the height variance speaks to the overall massing of the building, obviously, and how huge this is going to look in comparison to what's already there. So that's where I'm asking.
If I could show this picture here, because this is directly behind us. And that massing is actually larger than what we're proposing. And it goes up 3 levels. And that's directly behind us.
Any further questions? Would the committee like to take this application into committee for discussion? So we will take the application into committee. For discussion. Perhaps you'd like Ms. Valentini.
Clear, I've expressed some concerns about the side that's being requested in addition to the height. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I felt like this was going to, pushing the envelope, turn this.
I don't really have any those same concerns, but given the conditions that the planning department and engineering have established or indicated, that those be compliant as well. That with conditions.
Ms. Valentini's concerns, and I note that the planning department is prepared to support this because they believe that each dwelling incorporates an oversized dormer feature and that there's a stepping of the floors. Those are welcome measures to be sure, but I'm not personally convinced that they're completely satisfied, ameliorating the difficulties. I still have concerns.
As do I. I have a background feeling of overbuild on this. The idea of evening out the size of the lots makes sense, but there's overbuild, that having been done. So I'll look to committee for a motion, please.
I'd like to bring a motion forward for refusal of the application. As I said earlier, I don't think it's the best size of the massing and height variances that are being proposed.
Motion to refuse by Ms. Valentini. Is there a second on that?
I second the motion, Chair.
Second by Mr. Nipfel. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Motion is refused.
That's
That's for both applications, both 3 and 4. Number 5, 603, 611 Sherbourne, 4 to 6 Howard Street. Applicant, please. On this application, committee has before it material submitted by the applicant, covering letter from Michael Frederick, solicitor, diagram showing proposed increases in outdoor amenity space, transportation report by BA Consulting, correspondence from Heritage Preservation, staff reports from Community Planning and Engineering and Construction Services, and correspondence in concern from 21 Howard Street, Apartment 2. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Matt Schumann. I'm a solicitor for the applicant and owner, Concert Properties.
Good morning.
So I'm happy to speak to the 4 tests for each of the variances before you today and answer any questions you may have.
Let me just ask panel if they would like to have a presentation or go straight to questions. Panel?
I understood the application. I didn't have any issues understanding it. Does anybody else?
No, I think we'll go straight to questions.
And there's a transportation report.
Please, your questions.
I suppose it would be helpful if you could, without belaboring the point, if you could in a couple of sentences indicate why you're requesting this rather dramatic reduction in parking. You've supported it with the report, but your conclusions on why this is an adequate parking supply would be welcome.
Sure. And I will say we also do have a transportation engineer here with us from BA Group who wrote the report. So this parking supply is a reduction in resident parking. There is no change to the visitor parking. And the resident spaces being requested are consistent with a number of approvals across downtown. I commend your attention to page 12 in the report. There's a table 5 there. And these are a number of recent approvals across the downtown area with, I'll say, even less generous parking ratios than are proposed. This property is on the same block as the Sherbourne subway station. There are two entrances to that station. There are also 3 nearby bus routes, and Sherbourne has been identified as a priority bicycle route in the downtown secondary plan and has dedicated bike lanes painted green. So in this area, we feel that this is consistent with the intent and purpose of the general plan, and the secondary plan, which limit contemplate a maximum on parkings as well as minimums downtown, and have policies concerned with an oversupply of parking downtown. This is very much a transit-oriented development. It's also near the edge of what's called the Bloor Bay office corridor in the downtown secondary plan. There's a lot of other buildings in the neighborhood we consider it a walkable area as well.
We received last evening a planning report with the recommendation for Section 45 agreement. Have you seen that? Do you have any, and if you have, do you have any difficulties with the recommendation?
Yes, we've reviewed it, and it's acceptable to the applicant.
For the information of committee, this item comes up now. It didn't come up at time of original application. Can you tell us how the developer's thinking has changed in the interim to bring this up now?
Sorry, all of the variances, Mr. Chair? Or what?
The variances, the variances in today's application.
Okay.
Were they not foreseen at the time of the original application?
So the original application was part of a larger zoning bylaw application for this sort of strip of properties between Bloor Street and Howard Street. So it contemplated multiple development blocks. That went to what was then the OMB in 2017 and was approved at the OMB. This applicant bought the property subsequent to it being zoned and has implemented their own design. And these changes are meant to implement that new design. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
I just have a quick question, actually. I made a note here, and I was trying to look for it in the transportation report. It speaks of there being a total of 204 parking spaces. I know your variance is for 180. And it does say here, the proposed effective resident parking supply, excluding visitor spaces, 173, is equivalent to 0.34 spaces. So is a report based on 204 parking spaces? 180, I think you might have answered that saying that the visitor parking is going to remain the same, but can you just clear that up?
Yeah, so really there's 3 sets of parking contemplated for this development. So one is 167 spaces, I think that's right, for this building. The zoning requires this building to accommodate parking for Block 2, which is adjacent, has some restored semi-detached heritage buildings on it. There's 6 of those. That parking ratio is 1-to-1. So we're taking 167 plus 6 is 173. That block is zoned for additional townhouse units. There's no pending application at this time, but we think there's going to be 7 units there. And so we went from 173 to 180, and then you add 31 visitor spaces to that.
Thank you. Just a moment, please, and I want to apologize to the entire hearing, a mistake that I have made with respect to the procedure today. Actually, this application was one of the ones which had persons wishing to speak to it and had been held down. I inadvertently proceeded with it now. So I'm going to let it continue, and I will ask the persons that are here to speak to it. We'll go through hearing you now. But this is my mistake. And my apology to everyone for the error. Are the people in opposition present?
Yes.
Yes, they are. So, yes. Very good.
So basically, what I'm trying to get at is that the parking report prepared by the consultant does in fact contemplate 180 spaces as requested by the variance. Actually, it's contemplating more spaces.
Yeah, so
Will still be made available notwithstanding the variance. Because they're
that's right. So the report, which was submitted as part of site plan, but also included in your file, and was reviewed by Engineering Construction Services, and they stated they had no objections. Contemplated 173 resident spaces plus the visitor spaces. The 7 additional spaces for future development have been added in subsequent to that report, but they're consistent with the 1-to-1 ratio in the bylaw.
because the whole zoning bylaw applies to all 3 blocks.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I just was getting confused with all the numbers. So.
Yeah. No problem.
Thank you. All right, then we shall now hear from the person here to speak in interest on this application. If I could ask the applicant to have a seat, please, and podium to the person in interest. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Bear with me. It's my first time in this experience. My name's Tom. Okay. And I don't mind the error you made. Okay. My name's Tom Walsh. I live on the corner, kitty corner, to the development project. So it's to the left, the lower left side. And there's 2 50-story buildings that are going up beside me. The concert, which Matthew just spoke to, and the Medallion project, which is on the south east corner of Bloor and Sherbourne. For the past 5 years, our neighborhood has contended with a number of high-rise developments. There's the Selby, the one across the street in Bloor and Sherbourne. Everything that's going on at Parliament. There's a couple of 50-story buildings there. And it's created a fair bit of chaos in the neighborhood. So speaking specifically to this project, immediately to the south of us, there's 3 large buildings, Toronto Housing, a lot of people on social assistance, that are also going to be affected. The one concern I have is the creating 3 more stories on a 50-story building. Now, the developers we've met, and they explained that by efficiencies, by lowering the ceilings in these 50 stories, they're going to be able to create 53 stories without any new height. So my initial concern of losing more sun, more sky, is not a concern at this time. The parking is another matter. We have a very restricted area for parking. And people, many of the cars that parked overnight are people disabled that leave their cars there. The situation is such that many of us go 3 or 4 blocks into the Rosedale area to leave our cars where there's no, you can have overnight parking without any restrictions. Now, if they're taking parking away from this development, it's going to put more cars on the road. Even though the developers have said they're targeting people without cars, but our experience isn't that. That more density of people in the area, there's more cars. A lot of people travel outside Toronto, and you know the public transportation to get around outside of Toronto isn't good. People keep their cars. The other issue is regarding affordable housing. I asked how many of these new 31 units from the 3 stories are going to be for affordable housing, and there's not going to be any. And that's the situation for the whole building. There's 500 new units going in and no affordable housing. Now they've paid into a fund that apparently there's going to be affordable housing, but where, you know? So it's a concern in the neighborhood. We're a neighborhood, people have been there. My building's 125 years old, and people have been there a long time. And we're seeing the neighborhood gentrified. These apartments, single apartments, are going for $2,500. The two-bedroom apartments, $3,500. The three-bedroom, $4,500. In my building, my tenant with one bedroom pays $780. The one who has three bedrooms pays $1,700. So we're being affected and being pressured. And they say, okay, well, your land's going to be more valuable. 5 years from now, when all the havoc's finished, you're going to have a more valuable property. But we're more interested, when you're 70 years old, you're not interested. You're interested in a quiet neighborhood more than having a more valuable property you're going to have to pay more taxes on. So these are some of the overriding concerns that maybe aren't specific to the applicant, but I think the committee in your deliberations have to take into account the local people who are living there, who are not being compensated in any way, except to have to deal and contend with some major developments that disrupt their lives. Yeah. So that's the issue at heart.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Walsh, just a moment, please. Are there questions for the applicant, for the speaker? Okay, then. Ask the applicant to return to the microphone. You have an opportunity now to rebut. I'm going to ask you to speak to the issues that were raised by the, only those issues raised by the speaker.
As I mentioned, the applicant has seen the conditions from the planning staff, recommended by planning staff, including a contribution, a cash contribution towards capital improvements or new affordable housing, and in Ward 13. Of course, that's where that gets spent is at the discretion of the chief planner in consultation with the ward councillor, but that's acceptable to the applicant. This building was approved, so there is an as-of-right permission to put a tower on this site. That approval didn't require any affordable housing. So the variances we are asking for today really are to implement a new design in the building, but not changing the building envelope or the use. I understand that, I spoke to Mr. Walsh this morning. I understand my client has also had previous discussions with him about construction management plan that will be implemented as part of an ongoing site plan process. I will just note that the applicant is engaged in a working group involving the local community, councillor staff, and planning staff to manage site plan and future construction issues. Because I understand construction does have impacts on the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Yep.
Final questions for the applicant by committee. Shall look, please, for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Mr. Walsh for his comments. They were well received. I think the point being that the tower building here was in fact a foregone conclusion, and I do believe that the applicant has shown a respect for community engagement by working with a working group in the site plan control application. The planning department also indicates that the applicant has been cooperative in working with the planning department on altering the proposal so that the built form was something that they were able to support. And the Section 45 agreement, which is a recommendation of the planning department, would result in community benefits to offset any kind of increased density ramifications. All of that considered, Mr. Chairman, I believe that this application warrants approval, and I'd like to move approval subject to the planning department condition. Put Section agreement.
Motion to approve by Mr. Nipfel. Is there a second on that?
Do we need?
Second by Mr. Bayat. All those in favor? The application is approved. Thank you. Now, We have numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8 were all held down, so we move on to application number 9. My apology again to those here on uncontested applications. We move on to number 9, 130 Crawford Street. And on this application, committee has before it the material submitted by the applicant and 4 form letters in support signed by occupants on Crawford and Shaw Streets. Good morning.
Hi, my name's Paula Boley. I'm the architect for the project and the agents for the owners.
Thank you. Hey, panel members, would we like to hear a presentation or rather go to questions right away?
I don't need a presentation. I just have a couple quick questions to make sure I've understood the plans. This is a semi, and I know you're proposing a third floor addition, the rear.
Yes,
The way I read it, the addition is not going to be visible from, because they're already 2.5-story houses, so it will not be any higher than or than the house?
The
Or
only
slightly
thing-
higher, maybe?
the only thing that's higher is a sort of raised skylight,
Okay.
but that's towards the back of the house.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
but otherwise, there's not going to be any impact in terms of the difference in terms of height or, compatibility with the attached neighbor?
No,
And is it the attached neighbor at 128? They're okay with the?
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else?
No, ma- is it work neighbor?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Unless anybody has any, no. Thank you for clarifying that. In my view, this proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, the additions at the back, limited impact on any adjacent neighbors, and I feel it fits in with the current character of the neighborhood. So my motion is going to be for approval of the application.
Motion to approve by Ms. Valentini. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Application is approved.
Thank you.
And we move on to number 10, 18 Muriel. And committee has before it on this application material submitted by the applicant, a covering letter from David Fujiwara, the agent, including photographs and renderings. And we have email correspondence from community planning, city planning, to consider. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is,
Okay. Who will be speaking? Will all 3 of you be speaking, or?
No, just David.
If I may ask you to have a seat here on this side, please, then, those that are here with David. Thank you. David, good morning.
good morning. I'm the architect for the project, and I'm here with the owners, Annie Zamoshi and Glenn MacArthur.
Thank you. Very good. Would panel like a presentation here?
I do have a handout responding to the issue of the secondary door
You
in
may
the front
approach
wall.
the panel.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, David, give us just a moment to dissect this.
I walked around the block and
Just a moment, please. Just
Okay.
while we have a look. You walked around the block and?
And I counted 13 houses that have a secondary door on the front wall of the house. I can't say for certain that they lead to a secondary unit, but that is a possibility, I would say.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. Fujiwara?
Yes, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Neff.
Go ahead.
My concern really, I recognize that there are a number of homes, as you've just given us evidence of, that have some form of entrance, secondary entrance at the front. My concern always with these is, and this goes to the variance number 4 that you've asked for, and that's the soft landscaping at the front.
Yes.
It goes from 75% to 30%.
Yes.
In a city that is rapidly being paved over, I always find that to be a challenge.
It's a misleading statistic because the front yard is cut off. It's in the middle of the steps leading up the front porch. So it is a very tiny front yard, so to speak. But the distance to the sidewalk is 5 meters. And so, in fact, it's actually a reasonably long front yard, but it's city property for the most part. And most of the front yard that is within our lot is taken up by the porch itself. So we're actually removing half of the porch and improving the front yard landscape area.
Soft landscaping is increasing on property?
Yes.
On property?
Yes.
Do you have an idea by what percentage?
By 40%, perhaps? 30% increase in our front yard.
Thank you.
So it looks like basically then most of the houses probably, if they have large front porches like your client's house currently does, don't comply then with the soft.
That would be correct, yes. And in fact, a good number of the houses on the street have front yard parking.
Can you just speak to the jump in FSI? I'm looking, I know it's currently a 2.5-story house, so I'm assuming the upper level is developed already?
Yes, it's a first, second, and third floor single-family dwelling.
So you're putting in a big dormer.
Yes.
Increase head space, make it usable, and
Yes.
you're now taking the basement. Is that why the FSI is increased?
I would guess so, yes. It's currently just storage space in the basement, but it will now become a second unit.
We often see that when there's a secondary suite added, the FSI jumps up considerably, but it's space that's already existing in the building and they're just capturing and using it. So that's what's
Yes, there's no increase in floor area on the upper floors from first to third floor.
You have a very large wood deck on the third floor. Could you speak to the screening? If I'm reading the drawing correctly, you talk about a 42-inch high wood screening. The
Yes.
planning department's requirement for decks that are not as large as this, so certainly for one this big or larger, is that they be 1.5 meters and that they be translucent glass.
If that,
Do you feel that what you're proposed is preferable, and if so, why?
no, I would, if that deck were to proceed, I would put up a high screen, a 5-foot high screen that is solid to block the view of any bedroom in the adjacent dwelling. However, in recent discussions with the owner, I am encouraging them to delete that deck and put a guard across the door at the back dormer of the third floor. We don't need to use that deck. The occupant of the dwelling is not going to use the deck more than twice a year. And it's an unnecessary expense that our budget really can't handle. So are we going to delete the deck? Yes, we're going to delete the deck and put a guard across that back door.
No, if you look at the roof plan that they've submitted, there's a very large deck. And I was just checking the wood guard against what planning would ask for, which is normally 1.5 meters.
Yeah, I understand that.
But
Yeah,
if you're not going to have the wood deck, that's even better because there is a privacy issue.
yes.
I guess the question I have for my colleagues on the panel is if there isn't a wood deck, do we need to put that in the decision? Because I think that that's pertinent to the approval of this application.
That would be fine.
But they'd have to come back and have a variance. No. Would it be sufficient to just change the purpose? I don't want to be onerous, but I would like to take you up on your offer. I think that's, on behalf of the owners, I think that's very generous of you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you could put it in as a condition. It's just for future owners. They may have an issue. I just want to alert you to that.
Okay, thank you.
Ready for a motion in that.
Well, having said that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, I don't have any difficulty with the remainder of the application. I'd like to, or are people speak? No. I'd like to move approval of the application subject to the deletion of the proposed wood deck on the roof plan. And that I believe that it's a reasonable.
Motion to approve with that condition. Second by Mr. Byatt. All those in favor? Application is so approved with the deletion of the roof deck.
Thank you.
And committee moves on to number 12, 96 Summerhill Ave. On this application, the committee has before it material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from the agent, and 7 form letters in support. 1, 21, 29, 31, 94, and 41, and 105 Summerhill Gardens. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is TEY Rook, planner for the owners of the property at 96 Summerhill Avenue.
Good morning. Thank you. Panel members, would you like a presentation on this application? Let's go straight to questions then.
Can you help me find what the existing FSI is?
Of the existing house, it's 0.76 or 176 square meters.
Do you have any questions of the applicant, or?
No.
No, in that case, let's move straight to a motion.
I'd like to move that the application be approved, that it meets all the conditions. Yes.
Motion to approve by Mr. Byatt. Is there a second? Second, Mr.
I second
Niffel.
the motion. Unlike the previous application, there's a roof deck on this one as well, just to clarify. But the angle of the lots is such that I don't personally feel that it has a negative impact on the neighbors, and I don't think they're a problem. So I'm happy to support.
Second by Mr. Nipfel. All those in favor?
Thank you.
This is approved. And committee moves on to number 13, 202A Bloor Street West. Good morning.
Good morning.
And on this application, he is dealing with materials submitted by the applicant, cover letter from the agent, Sarah Connor, site-specific bylaw affecting the property, and correspondence from Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto. May I ask your name, please?
My name is Liam O'Toole.
And committee members, questions on this one? Presentation? Yes. No?
This, to me, looks, I think community impact is positive.
I'm going to second it. It's a good proposal.
Motion to approve by Mr. Nipfel, second Ms. Valentini. All those in favor? The application is approved. And we're on to number 14. Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Number 14, 197 King Street East. Applicant, please. Good morning.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Caitlin Allen from Bousfields, Inc.
You.
And I'm appearing on behalf of the owner who is present along with the architect behind me.
Thank you very much. All right then. 197 King East, we have before us materials submitted by the applicant, cover letter from Caitlin Allen, parking study by LEA Consulting, rationale from Caitlin Allen, and a staff report from Heritage Preservation Service. Committee members, presentation requested or straight to questions? Sure, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask about the variance for the penetration of the angular plane. I understand it's just a small portion of the building, but do you have any schematics or diagrams that show that?
Yes, we do.
Since you're adding an addition and
Okay, great.
stories, I think it's set back, but anyway, maybe you could just show me.
Exactly. So on the screen is the view of the angular plane penetration. So it's the lower line that is the zoning angular plane that needs to be complied with. So you'll see that it's a portion of the existing access stair pop-up that penetrates, as well. Yes. As well as one of the upper levels of the hotel and a portion of the mechanical penthouse. But it is just those upper corners, and certainly in my opinion, the intent has been met in terms of setting the addition back, and while still allowing for a functional floor plate, as well as all of the necessary components of the mechanical penthouse on that mechanical penthouse level. We do have a rendering as well of the view of the building from King Street East, which demonstrates again that the proposal is meeting the intent of really being set back from the King Street frontage, which is what the bylaw is securing. It's not really that visible from the street. It allows the existing heritage building to still maintain prominence. So that's sort of, I hope that answers that question.
That's what I thought, but I just what portion penetrating.
Yeah.
I expect just.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That was my question.
Okay, great. Glad to answer it.
Check my understanding as well.
Okay.
Can you just show me where the changes are taking place on the plan? I mean, I know the building well. You just, in a very broad stroke way, show us where you're changing the.
Sure. So this is the site plan that has been just added to the screen behind you. So there are no changes at all proposed to the existing heritage building. There will be internal renovations in order to allow for the restaurant use at grade and the hotel use above. But in terms of the floor plate, it's really maintaining the existing floor plate with the addition with that step back above. So the red line is the floor plate of the addition. So you can see that at the rear, it's matching it exactly. And at the side lot line, it's also matching it exactly. There's a bit more added to the west lot, or to the other side lot line, just to accommodate some of the circulation and stair components. And then it's stepped back from King Street East above the existing building. So you can see that that red line there is stepped back further. One note I will make as well, there is a bit of a difference in terms of the property boundary, just because of the old, like the existing building is kind of straddling the property line, but the addition is wholly within the municipal boundary. Yes, we have that condition works well. The Toronto Preservation Board approved the application to alter the building in the way proposed at its meeting on January 27th. The applicant's been working closely with planning as well as heritage staff to arrive at this form of the proposal that's before you today, because this is a designated heritage building built in the 1880s, and it's also part of the St. Lawrence Heritage Conservation District, and also part of the original 10 blocks of the Old Town of York. So Heritage has been, interested in the proposal, but is definitely supportive of the application as it stands today, and are looking forward to seeing the revitalization of this heritage building, which is currently vacant.
Thank you.
Just a very quick question, and it probably relates to this diagram. Your variance number 1 talks about setbacks, and you've got a saying that the tower will be located 0 meters from the east lot line and 0 meters from the west lot line. Where on the diagram am I seeing that?
So the minimum setback, the building is built to the lot line both to the east and to the west. So that red line is the addition, and you can see that it is built right to those property lines. We can go through the plans of the upper levels as well. This variance is because there is a bylaw that was adopted by council in 2016 but remains under appeal that says every tower needs to be set back 12.5 meters from each side lot line. And that implements the tall building guidelines, which tries to secure appropriate separation distances between towers. This building, though, has a mid-rise typology, and obviously the site itself wouldn't be able to accommodate that type of separation distance, but that's not really the intent. Because a tower in those under appeal bylaws is defined as anything over 24 meters. The upper portion of this building, which is 29 meters in height, gets triggered by that tower definition. But really, I think that this is a mid-rise typology and appropriate given the form. I'll also add that the existing zoning on the site permits 30-meter metric height, which the building is less than. And at that 30-meter metric height, the regeneration area zoning permits that 30-meter building to be built to the side lot line. So this is certainly a form that was anticipated and is permitted within the existing and fully enforced CRE zoning. It's just that definition of what a tower is that's adopted, but I will emphasize continues to be under appeal discussed at LPAT.
So then basically, if this were approved with the 0 meter setback, you still would be precluded from going higher. Is that correct?
Correct. There's a 30-meter.
The LPAT appeals go through and that section of the bylaw, it's not like you can go up higher.
Nope, the metric height is 30 meters, so if we wanted to go above that, we need another variance.
Thank you.
Very good then, panel, and thank you, applicant. There are no further questions. I would look to panel for a motion, please.
I'm prepared to bring a motion forward. Thank you for the clarification, the presentation. I like to bring a motion forward for approval. In my view, this meets the 4 tests. So it looks like a welcome addition to regenerating this current property, and I'm supportive of that. So my motion's for approval, and it's going to be subject to the conditions set out in the Heritage Department memo.
Motion to approve by Ms. Valentini with the heritage condition. Is there a second for that motion?
I second the motion. Comments. A real asset. I was going to recommend that is heritage.
Approved, seconded, all in favor. The application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Committee moves on to number 15, 157 Symington. And on that application, we have materials from the applicant. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry and a 4-signature petition in support by occupants of Symington. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Joel Tanner with the Office of Simple Design Studio on behalf of the owners.
Committee, would you like a presentation in this case? We'll go straight to questions now.
Let's have questions. I think this straight clearly meets the test. I would note as well that
motion to approve, Mr. Nipfel, second, Ms. Valentini. All those in favor?
Thank you very much, committee. Have a great day.
Application is approved. And we are on to application number 19, 786 Palmerston Ave. Applications 16, 17, and 18 all being held. So 786 Palmerston, please. Applicant for 786 Palmerston. And on this application, we're dealing with materials from the applicant, correspondence from Kevin Downey, the agent, including 23 photographs, support correspondence from 788 Palmerston, a correspondence of concern from 788 Palmerston, same person.
She later wrote a letter in support.
And opposition correspondence from 790 Palmerston. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name, please.
I'm Kevin Downey. I'm the architectural agent. The owners are here as well.
Committee, we have questions for the applicant? We'll be here for a presentation.
I see you've made effort to show there are other existing walkouts, because that's usually an issue.
Yeah, just a casual loop around, and the neighborhood identified 22, 23 properties who have front basement walkouts.
And there are others on this street, I believe. I've noticed
Yes.
there are 2 others at least. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, let's move to a motion, please.
Okay. Carl, you're good? I can see
yeah,
his
just-
wheels
well,
turning.
Yeah, the way the wheels are turning is because it was originally a recommendation.
Yeah.
The wrong one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Nope.
Get the other.
I have no problem.
Okay, so I'm prepared to bring a motion forward for approval. Often I get stuck on the front basement walkouts, but you have demonstrated there are others in the area. And the addition that you're proposing at the area is very minor. So my motion's for approval without any.
Approved by Ms. Valentini. Is there a second? By Mr. Nepfel. All those in favor? Application is approved.
Thank you kindly.
And
Thank you for that.
number 23, Billings Ave.
Morning.
Good morning. Your name, please.
Jeff Pennell. I'm the owner.
Thank you. Committee has before it the material submitted by the applicant and a staff report from Urban Forestry, citing number 1.
No, it's really minor.
Let's go straight to a motion, please.
Okay, I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval. You're just enclosing the front porch. The footprint is not changing except for that. So the motion's for approval and is subject to the urban forestry condition number 1.
I am not, but I'll take a look at it. My architect, I'm sure, has got that information. Okay. Perfect.
There it is, a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Byatt.
Great.
All those in favor? Sir, your application is approved.
Thank you.
Number 21, oh, sorry, no. Okay, that then, for people present, that then concludes all of the uncontested applications. We'll go back now to sift our way through the applications which have persons here in interest. And we'll be starting at number 6. Number 16, Shaftesbury Avenue. On this one now, a little different procedure here. I'll ask the applicant to come up, please. And those that are here in interest to come at this time and take seats along this side of the horseshoe, please. And just before we begin, if I may, there's 2 of you, will you both be wishing to address the committee? Just the one person addressing. Okay, fine. Very good. Your name, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Sebastian Gomez. I'm here representing the TTC for 16 Shaftesbury Avenue.
Very much. All right, the members of the committee. Do we care for a presentation here? Are there questions of the applicant?
I don't have questions.
Okay, it looks, Mr. Gomez, as if there are no questions of you at this time. We'll hear from party here in concern. Thank you.
Good morning, committee members. I am Martha Norman, the daughter of Sheila Norman. I'd prefer to read this out so I don't forget anything, if that's okay.
Please.
Sheila Norman lives at 28 Shaftesbury, which is adjacent to the green space and Summerhill Station. She's lived there for the last 37 years, and we've worked on this presentation together. I picked the small straw, so I will be the one presenting. I'd like to start by saying that we absolutely recognize that accessibility is the objective here, and we are keen to see that happen. That said, with more than 30 letters from residents in the immediate vicinity of the station who support the easier accessibility project and the installation of elevators, it is clear that the community does not appear confident that the safety and livability of the community has been considered in the production of these plans. So we have some packages here for you. Unfortunately, it's at this late point because she was on holiday and it's all come over the last weekend.
You may approach the committee with those packages if you wish.
I'd like to follow that by saying, okay, should we give those out first? Oh.
Should come down.
I continue while she, okay. I'd like to follow that.
Could I just clarify, you're at, I'm looking at you on the plan, you're at 28, is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
And on the map, you'll see that it's, I don't know if you've got a revised version, but 28 is inaccurately marked on the map that was submitted originally. And the TTC, we just got a correction of that, I think, yesterday. So it's actually one lot in from where it says currently 28 is. On the survey map. I can, okay, sorry. Just because that does create a little bit of confusion. So I'd like to follow that by saying that as a family, we've enjoyed the benefits of living so close to Summerhill Station and how easy it makes to get around the city. Certainly for me, it was fantastic as a teenager. With this experience, we are also well aware of the drawbacks of living close to the station. For the last 35 years, Sheila has maintained a magnificent and widely appreciated garden in the green space, which are the pictures I just put up there to talk about, offer something about the space we're talking about. In the green space, which has likely helped to minimize many of these drawbacks. Our primary concerns with the plans, and this is shared by the letters we've provided, are that with the entrance moving from the Yonge Street commercial end of the building to the eastern residential end of the building, and with it being adjacent to an unplanned open space, that we can anticipate a significant increase in litter, noise, cigarette butts, drinking, urinating, late-night gatherings, and potentially crime. There actually have been a couple of strange break-ins over the years. And of course, the LCBO is also a nearby variable in the neighborhood, which likely contributes to that pattern. An additional concern is that the reduced green space can easily become a dead space when it is siloed by two buildings and is only 5.4 meters wide. So we didn't really have we went through, gardening pictures kind of thing. So the top picture, you can see the current face of the TTC property, and then this looks into the garden if you were standing on Shaftesbury Avenue, the second image. That is TTC property, and it goes right up to the 28 Shaftesbury.
You didn't take those photographs this morning, did you?
No, it's not looking quite so wonderful. There is. Yes, it will be reduced to 5.4 meters wide. Yes. It's part of the concern. That's why I'm trying to say that the main concern, yeah, at the east end of the site. Yes, exactly. And that the next point is that these two issues compounded with a smaller sort of unplanned green space combined with that exit adjacent to that just kind of becomes exponential. So that was the third point. The fourth is that the entrance to the subway will be only 5.4 meters from the closest residence at 28 Shaftesbury and then all the adjacent row, and virtually opposite the entrance to 21 Shaftesbury. We do have another map.
I must say, you're just over your time now, so I'll ask you to conclude, please.
Okay. I've been asked questions all through the middle of the presentation.
I'll give you some extra time. Please carry on.
I really would appreciate that. The site plan has several inaccuracies, which we've pointed out with 28 Shaftesbury. It brings into question the thoroughness of the plans, and if indeed all options and creative scenarios were considered. We've been told that the only way is that the elevators have to go that way. A local resident and engineer has presented an alternative plan. Please see the drawings attached to the third letter in your package. These plans allow for the existing entrance location to be maintained and possibly a reduction in the footprint of the building into the green space. It's not to suggest that this plan is the solution, but there are potentially more alternatives. The planned entrance, again, well, I've sort of said that.
Ask you to wrap up now. I have given you extra time.
This was timed at 5 minutes, is all I can say, and
You're now at
I've
6
had
and
a
half,
lot of questions.
I ask you to wrap up now, please.
Okay. Certainly, greater accessibility needs to happen. We can only imagine how frustrating it's been for others who have no means of getting around the obstacle of stairs. If there had been a public meeting with opportunity for feedback earlier, perhaps these issues would not be at hand right now. In summary, it would appear that the focus has been on the interior of the building in the planning process, with no consideration of its relationship to the functioning of the surrounding community, which is a major oversight. Therefore, we do not feel confident that the planning process for this important project has been adequate, and as such that the variances should not be granted, and until changes or alternative plans are made. As such, we're asking that the plans for this project revisit the options and create a solution for maintaining the entrance at the west end of the building towards the commercial zone. Make all efforts.
We'll ask you to leave it at that, please. I will ask the gentleman from the TDC to return. To address the issues cited, which are concern regarding the location of your plan in terms of impact on immediate neighbors close to the station, even suggesting that a replanning of this might be in order. Your response, please.
Firstly, I'd like to express our gratitude to the residents of 28 Shaftesbury for their maintenance of station lands, and we'd like to work with them going forward. Yeah, we'd like to work with them going forward to maintain the remaining green space. The layout here was looked at extensively, and unfortunately, the extension to the east of the station is necessary in order to implement barrier-free access to the station. This is due to a number of restraints, primarily the lands to the west. There is currently a driveway, and as you can see in this image here, there is a driveway just to the west of our current entrance. And to the north of our station, there is an active third-party owned parking lot, which we are maintaining. Within the station itself, in order to implement the elevators, this is a side platform access station, so 2 elevators are required. As you can see here, there's one, exactly, yes. So it's not a center platform. We need 2 elevators, 1 on each side. As you can see, 1 elevator is being proposed just to the west of the current existing staircase to the southbound platform, and 1 is being proposed just to the east of the south.
Point these things out, please, on the overhead. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
So that is the southbound access elevator. And just below that, on the other end of the station, on the east end, there's the northbound access elevator. And if you could show the platform level plan. As you can see here, the elevators are located just beside the staircases. They obviously cannot be implemented inside of the staircases as the tracks are in between.
So if this happened to be a center deck design station, 1 elevator would do the trick, but because it's side,
yes, sir.
I think that sort of boils down to, that's the issue here.
Yes.
Basic.
There's also a few mechanical rooms which need to be accommodated in order to have the elevators implemented at the station. And we need to consider surge space both in front and behind the fare lines, and also in front of the elevator, which could not have the elevator implemented on the west side of the station.
Questions of the applicant?
I have a question. As I understood it, the lady's objection was, and I think from a planning perspective is a very reasonable objection, is that you're moving the activity of entering and exiting the station from the west side of the property, which is close to the Yonge Street and the commercial activity, and you're moving it to the east side, which is in fact closer to the residential community, it does make more sense to have the entrance and exit closer to Yonge Street than it does into the residential community. I appreciate the constraints of the elevators and the fact that you've got the trucks, tracks in the middle, and you've got two platforms, and I believe that that generates the location for the elevators. What I don't see is why there would not be an option for you to still move part of the main entrance, pedestrian entrance, further to the west. Perhaps not all the way to the west, because as you indicated, there's a concern with barrier-free access. So there's a very narrow space there at the present time. There's a driveway beside it. Is it not possible that the entrance to the station could be moved to some location between the two elevators, which would take it further away from this lady's property?
I assume you mean that central portion of the station there. There are some key, back of house facilities located in that space. And in order, if we wanted to relocate those rooms, there would have to be a shutdown of the station during construction. So those rooms there are key to the functioning of the station.
Mechanical, or what are they?
Yeah, mechanical rooms. They are labeled on the drawing. So they're mechanical rooms, and that are key to the functionality of the station.
How long a shutdown would that involve?
It's about a 3-year construction period.
Thank you. Well, I'm not in favor of you shutting down anything. But I really wish closer to Young. Does it make price of doing that? No other option.
Unfortunately, we don't believe there is another option. This has been looked at extensively, as I stated. And unfortunately, due to technical constraints, this is the only location possible.
The question? In that case, I shall look to committee members for a motion, please. Sorry, I'm sorry. You were not recognized by the chair. I'm sorry. Taking this into committee. Do we have a motion on this? Mr. Chairman, I'll be the bad guy. I feel that the neighbor has raised a valid concern. And it makes all sense in the world to have the pedestrian access further from the residential uses. However, I also appreciate that for the system itself to operate, the installation of elevators is essential and overdue, and I certainly don't think that we should be standing in the way of that occurring. I further recognize the applicant's proposal of the location of those elevators being fixed and not subject to a lot of options, and that's just by virtue of the nature of the line and where access is. There is a concern for safety of handicapped people, handicapped users, and handicapped people using the street.
that generates a concern for retaining the entrance at the east end. I appreciate that as well. I'm familiar with this station, and it is a dangerous entrance. So I'm reluctantly going to recommend or move approval of this application, subject to there's a heritage condition. And I say reluctantly because I don't see that there's another option, and I do believe wholeheartedly in the role of the TTC to make this city work. And I think the proposals before us enhance the service of the TTC and general.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve by Mr. Nipfel. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Byatt. All those in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you.
And committee moves on to number 7, 18 Blandford. Excuse me? We will proceed without disruption. We will proceed without disruption. We will proceed without disruption. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ladies. My name is Joseph Romero. I am represent the owner of 118 Blandford Street. Regarding, we have 2 variants.
Just a moment, please.
Okay.
Well, I take note of the materials that we're working with. We have the materials submitted by the applicant. That includes a site report by building permit consultants. We have email correspondence from Transportation Services. And we have correspondence in opposition from Enzo Giovanco, representing the owners or occupants of 20 Blandford.
AI?
Excuse me, sir? Yes, you have something there to submit to the, the panel? Yeah, if you could, yes, you may approach. Maybe it could go on the overhead. Is this something which could go on the overhead so we could all see?
Okay.
If you did, sir, may I ask, are you the owner or the agent?
I've missed.
Property. We proposed a parking over there in the front. When I make a coordination with the planning department, with a committee adjustment, I get some advice, especially with the planning department, transportation, sorry, in East York. They told me at least if we had to put my car inside the property, I had to put all the chain, the stone by green. They don't have a problem for my application. So
Change is done by, sorry, by who?
It's it's a transportation office. The person is Mr. Long Pan.
City?
The city of Toronto, yeah.
Thank you.
So he gave me advice because I had to do the coordination. So I decided we had to put a car inside. I'm good with the property right here. So you can see over there in the elevation, this is the property line, I put the car inside. So I don't we put the car inside the property, so we had to remove the porch, the front porch, part of the front porch, and put the car inside. So this is a more important thing. We had a problem with the committee adjustment, with the zoning review. And we had another picture right here. So you can see, this is the existing house. Where there is a one car is where I plan to do the parking, my spot for the parking there. The guy who is coming to against me today is the owner of the other house. He had 3 cars there.
You need to point out to us which is your house, please.
Okay. So anyway, This is a car in the left side. We plan to put everything green. We plan to remove the porch. We put the car inside. So we are inside the property line. This is my proposal.
Your proposal is to remove some of that paving and to put landscaping on it, is that?
Exactly. Everything green.
Well, not everything, because you're still...
Actually, green, as you can see.
You're still putting a parking space.
Yeah, but we put, when you put a waste, only you put a stone that way, a stone right here, and you can put a car over there after the rest is green.
Can I just,
Let's let him finish his presentation.
okay.
Please finish your presentation, sir. Do you have anything more you wish to tell us about your application?
Pardon me?
Do you have anything more that you wish to tell us about your application?
Yeah.
You want to say more about the application?
The application is regarding to get a parking spot over there. I make a report already, as you can see the plans. I make a picture for all the existing properties over there. They had a problem for the parking. And normally, 98% of the people parking outside in the same situation. But in this case, we want to go clean. We want to go by the book. We want to have the parking over there to have no problem with the city. I put the car inside, and it's the more important thing.
Thank you very much. We have some questions for you.
I'm still not clear on what you're proposing to do. The drawing that you had on the screen that I have on my computer shows the whole front yard is landscaped, except for a walkway to the front porch and two paving strips which you propose to drive over for the car.
I say one flat.
But where the car's parked, the grass isn't going to grow because there's no sun.
Pardon me?
You're proposing that the area where the
car go inside.
To the side, yeah.
I remove the porch.
I know that, but on your site plan, you're parking a car over top of the grass, which doesn't work.
No, I show you how the weather.
I know what you mean. You've got two strips of concrete, but you have to blow it up.
Right here.
Yeah, no, it's grass, and you see the little.
I put a tracking on stone. The rest is green. You know what? I plan to be the example of the block because nobody do that. Everybody has stone there. Normally, 80% of the people they have stone. So we plan to see the example for the rest of the houses to put the green there.
Well, it answers the other question at least, which was, I was assuming you were going to try and park two cars in your front.
No, one.
Because it's all paved. But if it was all paved, you
no.
could
But
park two.
the situation is we want to put only one car.
Moving in front of the
Below
porch.
grade, isn't it?
Is to put a car there and that's
I'm
it.
going to ask.
Over here. You should move it.
Question.
Can I just, I'm assuming based on your plans, it looks like there at one point was a below grade garage at this house. Is that correct?
Pardon me?
Did you have a garage? Was there a garage at this house at one point?
I don't understand your question. Before they had a parking under.
Thank you. So there was a garage.
We already paid a penalty to the city. We applied to the committee adjustment. We paid the fine. And now we try to get everything,
So
clean
there was
everything.
a prosecution. I'm assuming you built it without a permit then.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. There's no fine or, yeah.
So I remove the porch. I put the car inside the property line. I put everything green.
Well, it looks like the porch has living space.
This is the porch, we take it out. Half. Because I need the space to put the car inside.
The proposal is to take out the porch and to do half of the front lawn with
Exactly.
Well, transportation. Okay.
What are you going to use the garage for?
There's no garage. It's a living space.
The problem is no garage port there.
Its existing basement has got a garage there.
But the proposed, it's now.
But,
He's already done all the work.
But look at the drawing as he's proposing. It says it's a garage, yeah.
Garage.
May I just ask, on the drawing, the floor plan basically of your ground floor, what's actually the basement? you've got a garage. There's a drawing of a dashed drawing of a line, and then there's the wall where your windows are at the front.
Yeah, in the front, we plan to remove it, put a window there.
Lisa's right.
It's like a storage over there, a storage in the basement.
Okay.
I plan to put a window for the illumination.
So are you going to be building an additional wall on the inside?
In the back, we plan to make an addition, but we don't have a problem for the committee adjustment.
I don't mean the back of the house.
In the back of the house, we don't have space to put a car.
Just underneath the porch.
Yeah.
If we had the drawing, I think it would be great. Because
See
I
the
think
windows, it's obviously the space in the court.
yeah, under the
Probably
porch.
like a cold room or something.
Not that one. If you can, yeah, okay. If I may, Mr. Chairman, can I just step up? I just want to point. The wall here.
Yep. It's part of it, but that part is only is engineering part. So we plan to put maybe some steel beam or whatever we need to according to engineering calculation. Actually, you know what? The wall is there. That wall is there because they had an opening. They had an opening before because that one was the door for the garage, old garage long time ago. So they had actually beside the door they had a lintel. Exactly, we close everything.
And just one of the
Yeah.
garage, that room.
Yeah.
For the moment.
It's a storage.
Just storage. Okay.
Okay. Let us now hear from those that are here in interest. Sir, if I may ask you to have a seat.
Okay.
We're going to hear from those that are here. If you have materials for the overhead, sir, please put them up. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Good morning, committee.
Do you wish to put anything on the overhead?
I do, yes.
Please, go
Yeah.
ahead. And maybe you have, yes, if you have someone there to point out the things you're talking about, that could be useful.
Yeah. So sorry, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. My name is Enzo Javenko. I'm representing my elderly parents who are both disabled, could not come today, who live at 20 Blandford Street. I'd like to share with you guys a series of emails.
Just a quick question. So your parents live next door?
Yes. So the property that you saw adjacent to that one?
Okay, they're next door to the...
The 3 cars were parked.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my parents' house where the white Toyota RAV4 there is.
Good.
So in April 2018, I sent an email to the building inspection department because they had decided to do this work next door, and we wouldn't have had a problem with it if it didn't impede on the way we live on our property. But they buried an inclined driveway, a lower level garage, converted into living space. They built a 3-car driveway, which right after it was completed without any permits, was used as a 3-car driveway. And for months, I parked my car backwards because I couldn't get out if I parked it forward because the 3rd car was right on the property line. And I called the city many times. Nothing was done about it. Finally took it to a different fellow in the building inspection department. He finally had the parking enforcements come out. They forced him to get some parking permits, I guess. Today they parked 2 cars there. Not sure if they have a permit for the second one. But I'd like to kind of just read these quickly, the emails I provided, just because it really explains the story well.
So you want to concentrate on the impact this is having on your development of your property, please.
So for one, it's the parking. For two, I want the committee to try to imagine tomorrow morning when 25 centimeters of snow falls, where is that snow going to be put? Very tough question to answer. Today, I'll tell you where it goes. The 3 of them get out there in the morning and they shovel it all onto the street because there is nowhere to put it. And had they gone for a permit to begin with, they probably would have got denied because they're occupying the entire front part of their house with vehicles. And there's, yeah. Yeah, so 2 and 3, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And then if you could just put the picture of my car, Serge. On the, oh, do I have it? Yes. Okay. So I want you to imagine my parents are disabled. My dad's in a wheelchair. My mom is severely disabled as well. They have to take their garbage out. That's not their garbage. That is my neighbor's garbage. And as you know, my driveway is a private driveway that holds 3 cars comfortably. But we've always had right of use to that piece of property there to exit our vehicles and come out. Since they've done this work, they've occupied that space because they don't have a garage anymore by putting their recycling and garbage there. So if the car is there, my parents can't take out their own garbage because it's now blocked with their garbage. Every time we have to park in our private driveway, we have to literally move the blue box and then park and put it back. And to be quite honest, if you know, I wish there was a survey done, hence the importance of getting permits. I'm not quite confident that that last row of interlock sits entirely on their property. And I'd like to get an updated survey by them to prove that it does. But again, I think you can understand the frustrations for us. Like, it's definitely impeding on our property. It's definitely doesn't help that now they've built a raised driveway below ours. So now there's a step there, which is a tripping hazard. Would have been nice if we could have coordinated something together, maybe done a smooth finish all across. But you know, I parked my car in the driveway last winter, and I could barely get in because the snow was built up against our driveway, and we couldn't.
Approaching the end of your time.
Yeah,
I'm to summarize.
I'm done. We just want what's rightfully to be done when jobs are done, and that is by getting a permit so that properly done, and we can avoid problems like this. And we just like to have clear access to our driveway, and we'd like verification that's not on our property either.
Thank you very much. You're precisely 5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you.
Clarify, sorry, before you leave.
Yes.
Your parents' house is it 128?
It's 20.
Oh, 120.
No, 20. It's
128.
It's that house there.
Next door.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Forget it.
And are you aware of the
I meant 20.
the proposal is not what we see there, but the proposal is that the left half of that front yard will be soft landscaping. That's the proposal that the committee is dealing with.
So the proposal that I read was the variance for the extra parking spot. Okay, so I'm reading the notice that we got was for an extra parking spot, or is it just for one parking spot? Okay, so I didn't see that, but
it actually involves pulling up half of those paving stones and not on your parents' side, on the other side of the lot, soft landscaping.
Okay, so I was not aware of that. I was assuming that they were keeping all of that the way it is, so that's being taken out?
It's about half.
Half of it?
Yeah.
I didn't see that exact.
Have you got the site?
So that's the challenge. I didn't. I got it today. I was given it to today, but I haven't got any call back from anyone.
So through you, Mr. Chair, see where the white truck is? If you push that over a bit, that portion of the front porch is going to be removed, so it's just going to be a covered front door stoop. The car will pull up in front of that window, and then there'll be a walkway and then a strip of landscape.
Yeah, that should have been done in the beginning. Yeah.
Any other questions for this gentleman?
So the addition in the back, that's one question that I had for the committee was they're going to need to access our property to go through that, and I don't want to disrupt my parents' livelihood there. And I'm not sure what the length of time is going to be of that, or what it's going to do to our driveway, if it's going to damage it with machineries or whatnot, but I'm not sure. I'm assuming if they're going to do an addition on the back, they're going to need access to our property. I'm not sure.
Through you, Mr.
That's not for this committee.
Yeah, through you. It was mentioned in the notice of public hearing, Mr. Chair, but there are no variances identified for that rear addition.
Do you understand?
So I
We're not
believe
actually
they
dealing
feel
with the
that
rear
as of
addition
right.
in this morning because it hasn't triggered any variance.
Okay,
It's
all
only
right.
the front that we're looking at.
Okay.
So
They
maybe
can build it as of
That
right.
doesn't mean that it won't go ahead, though.
Okay.
It means we're not dealing with it today.
Okay.
Because they don't need a variance to proceed with.
Okay.
So through you, maybe I can just amend the purpose of the application, which has been changed to legalize and to maintain the habitable space in the basement that was created by converting a below-grade garage without a building permit, and to redesign the illegal hardscaping in the front yard to accommodate only one front yard parking pad.
That is the actual application.
That's what
the purpose that we are dealing with in committee this morning.
That makes me feel a lot better, and I'm glad I came here to clarify that, because to this day, it's been 2 years that I've been asking, no one's given me an answer, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll ask the applicant to return to the podium, please. Questions? You have an opportunity now to rebut. You have an opportunity to comment on the things the neighbor has said. Do you wish to do that?
The point is, the reason why we decided to put the car inside is because we don't want to have a problem with the property line. Because according to the site plan is 13 feet from the house to the border. According to zoning by law, you need around 19 feet. So that's the reason why we put the car inside. So when you see the car right here.
Excuse me, sir? I only want you to address things that your neighbor said.
Yeah.
Those are the only items that we'll be addressing now in this rebuttal.
Okay.
Anything he said that you want to comment on or respond to?
Okay, the comment is we want to make clear the application is only for one parking, not two, number one. The second point is we plan to put green. So we plan to remove the stone and put everything green.
Half green. It's going to be about half.
Yeah.
Not the whole thing.
Yes.
Further questions of the
to put some trees there, you know.
I have one question, if I may. I'm looking at your proposal. There's a diagram of the proposed site plan. It doesn't show, you showed us a little picture earlier of some of the green space that you were going to create. The landscape you see there, for example, on the top right-hand side.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be indicated anyway. Is that part of the proposal as well, to indicate that that's the green space you're going to have?
Yeah.
The landscaping?
The more important for us to put green in all the park to comply with the requirement of the city.
Yeah. My thinking would be that would be part of a condition that I would like to see.
Yeah.
That should we approve the single parking space, that the soft landscaping be included.
Yeah.
So that landscaping that you see.
We actually.
I would recommend it. Here. This proposal. I think
Let's take the application into committee now so that we can discuss these things. And that sounds like a good way forward to me. So, sir, the application is now into the committee. We're going to discuss it. And
the point I was going to make is step forward over at current. No one can be well, parking is I'm prepared the application. Drawing.
Committee members of the Committee now, please.
Yeah, I Mr. Phil's comments are perfect. I agree with that. And that's drawing C1 would be the appropriate to.
As do I. We need to ensure that the existing is changed to what is proposed. Excuse me, sir. This is in committee now. So I will look at that being.
motion?
Yeah.
Motion then to approve based on
And there's a heritage.
condition.
No?
There is a motion now to approve by Mr. Nipfel.
Sorry,
The construction,
Looking at the wrong plan before.
the construction to be in accordance with drawing C1 submitted. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr.
Thank you,
Byatt.
Phil.
All those in favor? The application is so.
Thank you very much, sir.
You.
Did the gentleman, do you understand what we just? Yeah. We've adopted the drawing, said that work has to proceed in accordance with that drawing. The drawing you have in front of you is.
All that we're dealing with is what we're dealing with. That's very good. Okay then, and committee moves on now to item number 1112 Nottawa Avenue. We are moving rather to item number 8, 407 Annette, applicant to come forward, please, and those here in interest also to come forward and occupy these chairs along the side. Annette Street.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is John Force. I'm the owner of the property.
Thank you very much. If I may, I shall read into the record the materials that we're dealing with on this. And they are materials submitted by the applicant, a staff report from Urban Forestry, correspondence from 5 Nottawa and 7 Nottawa, 25 signature petition in support, signed by owners of Nottawa, Seneca. Am I right here? I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I got it wrong too. We're on Annette Street. Pardon me.
It's okay.
Okay, back to Annette Street and number 8. Thank you, Ms.
Swear it's the
Valentini.
computers.
Okay.
Let's blame it on the.
We have materials by the applicant. A covering letter from John Force, Michelle Akers. Justification report from those persons also. Noise report by Coulter Associates. Staff reports from Planning and Transportation. 55 form letters in support. Correspondence in concern from Jerry Chung of 411 Annette. And opposition correspondence from 94 Fairview and 403 Annette. Oh, already given your name, thank you, good morning. And I think we'd like a presentation on this, please, so.
Sure, definitely.
Tell us what you want to do.
So we'd like to convert this to a commercial space to run a music school. And we chose Annette Street because it's a multi-use street. There's multiple businesses there already. And when I was collecting signatures of support, there was the majority of, I shouldn't say, a great deal of the properties were already rental units. So it is quite a busy street, and there is already existing businesses. And it shows that there's a precedence as well. We have a Montessori Stepping Stones daycare around the corner that is a single-family home with 1 parking spot that was approved by committee. We also have the Classical Music Conservatory, which is not a single-family home, excuse me, a residential dwelling, I should say, and that has 0 spaces for parking. That was also approved by committee. So we're not asking for anything new. I'm very excited about the opportunity. We can do a lot of good in the community. One of our teachers has just been nominated for her second Juno Award. We'll be bringing in university professors to teach children music lessons. In terms of transportation, and I should say 2 of our teachers are signed with Sony Music, so the level of education that we're going to be bringing into the community is stellar. We have the highest number of PhD and DMA candidates and graduates in Canada, so it's an elite music school. Now, to address the parking, we proposed 3-car parking in the back with the driveway. And there's plenty of parking on the street. There's 12-car parking in front of the house. There's parking on the side streets. There's actually...
Do you have a site plan you might put up on the overhead?
A site plan, yes. I should have it.
I'll give you extra time.
Okay.
Help us to visualize.
I don't have the site plan with me. I'm sorry. I've been very ill. I have it on my phone. If
Put your phone on the overhead if you like. We have
do you have it in your records? Was it easier?
We have it, yes.
Okay.
The 12 spots in the front, I'm interested to see where they are.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's carry on if you don't.
Okay, yes. And there's a bike lane on Annette Street, and there's a bus stop basically across the street. And I propose to do pick up and drop off. I've spoken with the Annette Community Center, which is basically across the street as well. I think it's 3 doors down from us, and they have a parking lot, and we can propose a pick up and drop off there. And I've also told our students that if they for parking, I'm tempted to, anybody who does more than 3-car parking would be to, charge the students to park. Or just tell them to walk or take the TTC.
There's we've received a report from Transportation.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, no.
It's pretty important. You need to review it.
Okay.
They're recommending that 3 spaces in the rear yard are not functional.
Oh, really?
They're recommending they be deleted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Substantial change.
Okay. So
you don't have it on.
I don't have it. No, sorry. I've been very ill. I could almost not make it here today.
If you hold on a sec, do you want me to?
Let's let the gentleman finish his presentation.
I think it's important to his proposal because
yes. So if they're going to delete the 3-car parking, then there's like I said, there's parking on the street. We're only going to be having it's a very small school, 1 student at a time, every half an hour. So you can have a. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. So it's basically one-on-one teaching. So students would come one at a time, they take their lesson, take their hour lesson, then they would leave. And again, we could propose pick up and drop off in the parking lot at the Annette Community Center. I've talked to them, and we could even have parking there possibly if we pay them to park. And we charter students. If students want to drive, most people walk and take TTC, but if they want to be stubborn and drive, I'm an avid cyclist, they should pay for parking.
What was your proposal for the 3 parking spaces? Who was?
It was for our students to park back there. Yeah, we're just trying to help get extra parking, and I wasn't sure it was deleted. I'm not sure why it was deleted, but I'll have to take a look at that.
Well, so then this begs the issue that if the 3 spaces are deleted, now the variances are going to change.
Yeah,
correct.
So you'll need to get 0 parking.
Okay.
I'm assuming if I don't know. I don't know if the zoning is okay with the 3 at the back or happens, but.
Basically, what Transportation Services says that parking demand generated by a project should be satisfied on the site. Okay, fair enough. And then it says that the okay, and then we'll send it to you because it's important you read this because this is
okay. Sure, for sure. I'm definitely going to read it.
I'll ask you to summarize now your presentation.
Okay, so in summary, again, our music school is going to do more good in the community than harm. Again, elite teachers giving people opportunity, especially children after school, to just walk over. Most of the students are going to just walk over from Annette Street Public School and St. Cecilia School, take lessons, and then go home. Again, we just have an elite school, and I'm proud to, it's been a lifelong dream of mine, and so we just would love it to come to fruition. And again,
thank you. I'll ask you to
Thank
have
you.
a seat while those in concern speak to the application. Please come to the podium and let us know your name. Very good.
Hello, members of the committee, thank you for your time. I'm Andrew. My wife Jennifer and I own 403 next door.
Your full name, Andrew, please.
Andrew LNS.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Welcome. As you've no doubt read, we have serious concerns with regards to not only the broad public implications of this application, but also its disproportionate adverse impacts on the immediate neighbours.
Could you just one moment, please? Do you live next door?
Next door, yeah, I'm immediately next door. Yeah,
Thank
403.
you. Please carry on now.
Our concerns include the adverse impact on local traffic, the unfeasible parking situation, which has now actually been slightly addressed by this letter from the city. The impossibility of 100% noise mitigation, and the overall unsuitability for a residential area. And the level of detail provided against several key areas of the application is insufficient in our view. As far as we're aware, a full traffic report on the traffic impact of this venture hasn't been completed. And importantly, we don't see anywhere on the application exactly how many students will be enrolled. We have no numbers to assess the scale of the operation and therefore the level of traffic disruption that would be caused. The plans indicate 100% of the building being repurposed for classrooms and recording studios, so that doesn't quite tally with the one-on-one education that we've just heard about. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that once the business is operating at full capacity, there will be multiple cars picking up and dropping off simultaneously. Referring to the city letter of 25th of February regarding the on-street parking, we can tell you as residents, and I think Unable will speak to this as well, that the parking spaces on Annette are always fully occupied by residents. On days when the school's already been operating, we noticed a marked increase in cars stopping illegally in the bike lane to drop off and pick up, blocking traffic and standing or even fully parking in the no stopping zone to the east of the property. And you'll see in our letter that we recorded a significant number of such incidents over just a few evenings. I might add at a time when the premises is not fully up and running. This is only going to get worse. I've got some photos which I can show you at the end of the presentation, if that's okay. Given that all this occurs at a pinch point of a left turn lane, a bike lane, a no stopping zone, and an all traffic lane with a bus service, we believe there is a legitimate public safety concern. With regard to the parking, I refer to the city recommendation that we just heard about, the 25th of February, recommending removal of the 3 parking spaces being applied for. This was due to the narrow width of the driveway and the impossibility of the turning circle. Considering that 5 spaces are technically required for a large venture such as this, an application for 0 spaces will make the traffic worse, and really this should be a new variance, a new application. Sound mitigation strategies prepared by the acoustic engineers are really not sufficient in our view and clearly admit shortcomings. A single clarinet, as was used for the test, does nothing to consider the cumulative effect of multiple instruments. We see no test in the report for amplified instruments. As you'll have seen, the acoustic engineers clearly state, and I quote, "They are not sufficient to operate without care for the neighbours," unquote. They also make the recommendation that the school only operate under reduced hours, the implication being that if they operated at night, they would indeed cause an adverse impact on the neighbours. The hours recommended, particularly evenings and weekends, are in fact the worst time for enjoyment of our property and would, I believe, cause significant impact. Briefly turning attention to the properties supplied as comparables, you'll notice that almost none of the properties are in a residential zone, as Forest 7 is. The 4 that are were previously zoned as retail, having a 2-story storefront build and not a detached family home, as is Forest 7. Briefly, in terms of addressing the signatures submitted along the application, we'd just like to note that these are merely signatures of no objection, not of positive support, and it's telling that none of the immediately adjacent neighbours provided signatures. We have some privacy concerns. There are security cameras which have been erected on the side of the property, one of which actually looks into our kitchen window, so that was something we would also like to have addressed. In summary, due to the lack of critical details and considering the adverse impact it will have on the neighbours and local residents, we urge the committee to reject the application. While this proposal could very well succeed and be compatible in many locations, we don't believe it belongs sandwiched in the midst of single-family homes on a residential street. Thank you.
Your application, just a moment, please. Any questions of the speaker?
I wanted to clarify, you're at
403, yes. And if I have 30 seconds remaining. Evening, the cars stop.
Those cars are dropping off to the school or what?
School, yes.
The public school?
With students coming and going. No, sorry, the music. That's happened on a number of occasions. Obviously, operating at reduced capacity. I believe so, at a reduced rate.
The parking you're showing is, in your view, is
Yes, yeah, students coming and going to 407. Yeah, yeah, and it appears to be. I mean, you know, we don't spend our lives looking, but we spent a couple of evenings just keeping a note before this hearing, and noticed every half an hour a car would drop off or pick up. You're welcome.
Please have a seat again. We'll ask the applicant to return to the podium.
No, this gentleman didn't.
Oh, you wish to speak also? Pardon me. You're next.
Hi, I'm Jerry Chung. Me and my father, Yun Hong Chung, live at 411 Annette Street, we are the direct neighbor on the west side of the proposed property at 407 Annette Street. We also share many of the concerns that our neighbors at 403 Annette brought up. Also, one of the main concerns personally is that my father lives in the basement in our house currently. He moved down there after my mother passed away, and he would be directly impacted. We have concerns that the reverberations from when they do their music studio downstairs, not just the sound, but just the vibrations would affect him. And he's not in the greatest condition. He stays home most days, and he's like inconsistent sleep patterns. So throwing in more variables into his daily life is a huge concern, since he suffers from several medical conditions. Also, having talked to 415 Annette Street, which is one of the people who signed, she is signed under the assumption that there'd be no traffic issues as well, after having discussed it with her. And then having lived there for about 21 years now, I can speak from experience that their proposed hours at 3 to 9 for them to trying to get parking on Annette Street in front of on that direct street. You pretty much need to be there when the car leaves to get that spot. It's very cutthroat to get parking. I can't speak too much for Fairview, but since school's out and people finish work from their working hours, they probably be hard pressed to find parking there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Yeah. Are there any questions for you? I do have one. You're at 411.
Yes, 411.
So the subject property is 407, 409, I assume, is between you and...
No. It's 403, then goes 407, and then 411.
Thank you very much. That clarifies it. Yeah. Thank you very much. So now we will ask the applicant to return to address issues raised. They involve safety and pickup and drop off, adequacy of plan in terms of parking, and sound noise concerns that would be associated with a music school and it's a recording studio also?
No, that's incorrect. There's going to be no recording. There's no recording studio. No, we can't afford to do that. That's very expensive. It's just a music school.
There were two other issues that were raised that I would really welcome the applicant
Definitely.
to comment on. One was the proposal was that there would be only one-on-one teaching, and
that's correct.
The proposal is for 4 classrooms on the second floor, which would question that. I'm not asking you to answer the question.
Yeah, it's one-on-one private.
I'd like you to speak to that. And the other issue that was raised, my impression was that this was not in operation now, and it's a proposal.
Yeah.
It's been suggested that, in fact, some form of it is in operation now, so I would like you to speak to that as well.
Yeah, I'll start by clarifying that. First of all, I live there, and as a property owner, as a music teacher myself, I'm allowed to use up to 25% of the property to teach music lessons. So I've been having some of my students take lessons with me there because my health is failing, so I can't always go to everybody's home. So yeah, the City of Toronto allows that. I'm actually using 10%. I'm using one room. So I'm allowed to use 25% of the space. I'm using 10% of the space right now. So I'll address that. I'd also like to address the soundproofing. So first of all, there's no clarinet on the application. The only instruments that will be taught will be piano, voice, guitar, and bass guitar and drums. And drums will be digital. And we're going to do the soundproofing. And I don't know, I'm not sure if you guys have actually ever stood out front of a university practice room. You can't feel anything. You can't hear any sound. It's completely soundproof. That's why they're, $20,000+ to actually put the professional soundproofing in. And we have recording studios throughout the city and practice jam spaces that have these very soundproof things. Our actually soundproof is going to be better than some of the rehearsal factories and rehearsal studios. To address the photos, first of all, you can't prove that those are our students. I only have 4 students who drive. I have students coming twice a week. Everybody stops in front of the house. Everybody actually parks. There's a spot right where the parking ends. People are doing that to go to the community center, to go to the school. So unless you have photos of people entering our home, taking pictures of cars is not, feasible. So basically, the security cameras are great. The security cameras are to protect the properties, to avoid vandalism. We have an ADT sign that we think that the security cameras and the security system will prevent vandalism. It will prevent people from loitering. And like I say, Annette Street is laden with businesses. I think there's 36 businesses on Annette Street in existence right now. Not all are commercial residential. Some are strictly commercial. Yeah, and
scope of the operation. I think there's a lot of concern about hours.
Yeah, it's one-on-one. We only have 3 classrooms right now.
One-on-one. So how could there be 1 student at a time?
Or 1 student per teacher. So 3 students at a time right now.
Right now, but
yeah.
The proposal would involve four classrooms.
Well, hopefully, eventually, we'd go up to 4 classrooms with the basement.
But I thought you said there's only 1. But right now, the only teacher is you.
That's right. So we're not in operation. There's no signs up. We can't put any signs up. We can't do anything unless the committee says yes.
I think this is where our committee wants to dig down here, is to get a
Sure.
sense of how the scope of this operation. We hear about elite music teachers and so on. It sounds like a very large operation by the way you describe it, and yet we're told no, it's not really that. It's only a small number of students at any given time. And the hours of operation. So address those issues.
Sure, definitely. So the hours of operation will be from 3 to 9, Monday to Friday. Probably earlier on Friday because nobody wants lessons on a Friday night. And then Saturday we plan to do 9 to 5. And yeah, one-on-one per student. So if you think, each teacher will have once per hour, maybe 5 or 6 students per night. So that's the scale of the operation. I have an in-home lesson company right now, and those are the teachers we have working with us. So we're going to pick our 3 best teachers and have them come in and do some studio lessons. But the property itself will only, I think, maximum do 4 rooms for what we want to do. So it's actually not a large-scale operation. It's family-run business in a home where there's already a great number of businesses in operation and 2 schools.
Other questions?
You've got, assuming you have your 4 rooms that you'll be using, theoretically, and if maybe I'm mistaken, but you could have 4 teachers teaching 4 students at the same time.
That's correct.
So actually, there are 4 students. I got the impression earlier that 1 kid comes or 1 person comes in at a time,
Yeah, that's right. You're correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Did you have an opportunity to read the report?
I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't have a...
I have a concern here because the recommendation, which I assume we will have very little choice but to recommend their proposal, would make this up, but we couldn't make a decision on this application today.
Okay.
Because we could refuse it because we couldn't approve 3 spaces, which is what you.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just, apparently it was just submitted like yesterday or something like this, like it was a late submission.
We got it last night.
Which is why I missed it.
I mean, what other?
I don't think there, or would need to be recirculated.
As I already said about the Net Community Center parking, we could do drop off there and we could ask them to park there.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work, if it's city-owned property, if you need an agreement, like, I mean, and that, you know, in theory, I suppose, but I'm not sure that's something we can.
Because I came under the assumption that we'd have 3-car parking, and that was just like I say, that application came yesterday. So it was pretty late, and the majority of our students walk, and we're talking about 4 students at a time. And we can even, most of the students will be in the neighborhood, and we can even tell them, don't drive. Or if you're going to drive, like, you're going to have to like pay for parking at the community center.
Unfortunately, there's no way for us to police that or ensure. I understand you would make efforts to do that, but this is
For sure.
It's changing the use on the property, and it's going to give it 0 spaces. So down the road, somebody else might run a music school, and you know, you might be more diligent trying to police that, but we can't ensure that all users are going to do that, right? So I think there's a bigger issue in terms of the variances as they read.
Well, there's already another music school in operation with 0 parking, which is basically like basically across the street from the school, so about a block away.
Okay, so at this point, let's take it into committee and we can talk about our options. At this point, we're into committee and options that.
I don't think there are options. The approval's impossible with condition. Deferral doesn't solve anything because we have that we have.
And I'll look forward for a motion, please.
Okay, so as you heard us discuss, there really isn't any other option in this case, given that, I mean, I suppose we don't have to take the Transportation Department's recommendation. They've reviewed this. They are not in agreement with 3 spaces at the back.
Okay.
Your variance is for 3. We can't amend the application. It requires recirculation because then now you're asking for 0 parking on site.
Yeah.
And there may be comments from Transportation about that. I don't know. Parking study, I'm not sure. So in my view, I don't see any other alternative but to refuse the application based on requirements. My motion's for refusal.
Motion to refuse by Ms. Valentini. Is there a second to that motion? Second, Mr. Byatt.
So there's no way to just get another, sorry.
All those in favor? The application is refused.
Okay.
For those reasons.
So there's no way to just try and get another parking study done?
The application is refused.
Okay, thank you. All right, I could reapply to the city?
Or appeal, that's right.
So I can appeal this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll do that.
If we move on to application number 16. Was it number 11, sorry. We're on to number 11 now, 12 Nottawa. I'd ask the applicant to come forward and those here to speak in concern to take these seats along the side.
Is that correct?
Number 11.
Oh, sorry.
We have 4 to go. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, my name is Bill Ross. I'm representing the owners.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Just a second, Mr. Ross, if you would, I'll just read into the record materials that are before the committee. They include materials submitted by the applicant. They include a report by Urban Forestry, correspondence in support from 5 Nottawa, 7 Nottawa, a 25-signature petition in support by owners from Nottawa, Seneca, and Ojibwe. We have correspondence in concern from 3 Seneca and 2 Omaha, and opposition correspondence from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 persons. All right, we will ask for a presentation. If you would tell us what you...
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the gentleman here, Bisadi, is actually here in support, and I wonder if he could speak. He wishes to speak first.
That's fine, and that's a good point, thank you. So may I ask, here to speak now, this gentleman wishes to speak in support. We'll let you do that. And the other two persons, do you both wish to speak? You're the owner of the property?
Yeah.
So is there anyone here to speak in opposition?
No. We spoke to him. He was satisfied with our concerns, and we addressed them.
So it was held because there were persons here in concern, but even though
Yes.
they were in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Understood. Yes, if this person would like to speak, please come forward and give us your name.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Julian Ganton. I'm the son and grandson of the co-owners of 12 NOTTAWA.
Please carry on.
Number 12 NOTTAWA. So I'm the current tenant of the house. So my partner Andrea and I have been living here or at 12 NOTTAWA for the past few years. Much of that time has been spent living under the same roof and caring for Peter, who's currently living in a retirement home, partly due to the nature of the layout of his home, which is 12 NOTTAWA. So he lived there while we were there, and he is now in a nursing home, or a retirement home. He hopes to return to this home in summer and live on the bottom floor with his son, my father, Stephen, and my mother, Julie, who are sitting right here. So due to his old age, due to his old age, having the bottom is important, hence the renovation to split the house to upper and lower living quarters. For this to be a comfortable and realistic arrangement for everyone, separate entrances are required, and an outer staircase has been proposed for this reason. As our neighbor Barbara outlined in her letter of opposition, Stephen Whitfield is a talented designer and builder. He has designed and built many of the homes in this community, and has always done so with respect to the neighborhood as a whole. This circumstance is no different, and along with my mother, Julie, has also reached out to the neighbors in hopes of coming to an outcome that works for everyone. The variance is 21.5% over the limit, but not out of character of the neighborhood. There have been other homes over that limit, and they are usually built that way to solve a problem, which our community, and in fact our city, I believe, is facing. In my opinion, the issue is a lack of proper housing for both the elderly and young people. This variance offers affordable housing to the elderly, with my family close by for support, and gives an opportunity for young people to live in and eventually raise families. The former is an issue that is very important to this community since it's one of the largest densities of elderly citizens within an already aging population of Canada. The latter is something which needs more attention and more solutions like this one proposed. My contemporaries would all say the same thing. We are living in a city which we cannot afford. We are delaying or not raising children of our own, and generally cannot afford to buy a home. This is something which we would like to do eventually, but feel we're being robbed of this opportunity. This would not be the first household in the neighborhood to make a variance such as this one. It has been proven on Toronto Island with tasteful design by Daniel Hall, among others. Daniel has designed a beautiful home on Wards Island, which is nearby. It's 25% over and now has 2 different living units under one roof. This type of solution is widely supported among the community members. I would very much like to see this minor variance accepted, would like to see a positive discourse with neighbors on solutions for privacy and aesthetic, which has already been partially done. Would love the opportunity to live in a comfortable arrangement under the same roof as Peter and my parents, and have the opportunity to live in a space I can comfortably live in with my partner and to eventually raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the speaker? Applicant. Thank you. So, Mr. Ross, do you need a full presentation, or I think we've got the gist of it now from...
Well, I It's up to yourself as to whether you want a full
Because
presentation.
you're both speaking in support, the applicant has 5 minutes. So if you have a quick summary you'd like to make, I'd listen to that.
Yes, the variances we're asking for are both minor. The side yards and the gross floor area. The gross floor area is, the neighbors have this concern about being over 15%. Ours is slightly over that. We're at 22. It's only about a 14 square meter difference between the two. Yes. Yeah, 21.5, sorry. No, not currently. That's what we're proposing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And the difference, like the neighbors have this figure of 15% for whatever reason. But that really amounts to a little bit more than 100 square feet, 110. And it's critical to having an extra bedroom in the house for the two units. I would say we don't exceed our maximum length. We comply with the front yard setback. We comply with the rear yard setback. We are actually shorter than the neighboring houses on both sides. The addition, they talked about not being in character with what's in the neighborhood. I can show you some photos of that if you'd like. If that's not necessary, that's fine. The other concern that they had was it wasn't in character with the house. But the reality is, when you look at the front of the house, it does not change. There's already a two-story portion on the one side, and we're just staying in line with that.
When I'm driving my bicycle down Nottawa Avenue in the summer one day, it's going to look the same pretty much.
Yep, it looks exactly, the only thing that changes is a set of stairs going down the side, which is not common, but there are a number of them in the neighborhood the same way for the second floor units. The neighbor on the, I guess at the east side elevation presents itself to, was concerned about overview from the deck. We offered and will build a screen on the deck to protect her concerns, as well as she was concerned about overview from the windows on the second floor. The second floor, by the way, is only an addition that's about 16 foot 10 inches long, and it's on the second floor only. It's supported on some columns. So from the ground, you see right underneath it, it's just the second floor that's there. The eaves and the construction of it is very much like what is in the neighborhood. In fact, the gentleman that was here in opposition basically said that he was quite happy with the design. It fit well into the neighborhood. We didn't have any accessory structures that was going to be built there.
Pardon me, I didn't realize. So there had been a gentleman here in opposition.
Oh, yes.
And he's spoken with you, and he's satisfied about
Yes, he's satisfied, and he's gone. He's not here anymore. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you there and ask if the committee has any.
Mr. Chair, I just wondering who actually who are the names of the owners of the property? We have a Peter McLaughlin and Stephen Whitfield. All right.
Peter's your father?
Peter's your dad, and there's you, and then there's you. So there's three generations, and you'd ideally, in the fullness of time, like to all live in this building. My understanding was that somebody lived in the basement, but there's no basement.
There's no basement. It's a second floor.
And a second floor, and you're reconfiguring this house to accommodate three generations of living. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the
Adjacent neighbors, are they one-story houses?
No, they're two-story.
They're two-story as well, okay.
We ready for a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of this application. I think that the proposal is admirable. A three-generation living accommodation is a terrific option. I don't think that the way in which it's being accommodated is negatively impacting on either the immediate neighbors, given the dialogue and the proposals you've made, or the general community. And I find the character in keeping with the eclectic nature of the island community. It's a cottage country look, and this seems to continue with that. I'm very pleased to move approval of the application with forestry condition number 2, which is very minor.
So a motion to approve by Mr. Nipfel, subject to forestry conditions. Is there a second for that motion? Second, Mr. Byatt. And all those in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The committee moves on to application number 16, please. And I'll ask those that are here in interest if they would come up too and occupy these chairs along to my ones that are speaking in the front. If you're here but not speaking, second row back. Speakers in the front. Looks like it. We'll confirm that.
Great. We'll hear you.
Okay. Just before we begin, may I ask those that are here in interest? Hello? You both wish to speak? You both wish to speak? Okay, fine. And we have the applicant with us, and I'll just read the materials that the committee is working with. Those submitted by the applicant, correspondence from Ashley Roberts from the agent, and a covering letter also. We have urban forestry with the staff report, heritage protection, preservation, with the staff report, correspondence from Christopher Gerard of Palmerston Ave, correspondence from 24 Palmerston, and correspondence in opposition from 9, 22, and 15 Palmerston. So good morning. May I ask your name, please?
Good morning. My name is Nicholas Sancho. So Friday morning, just to set something, we received from Jacob at the Committee of Adjustment that Heritage had taken a look at this project. We have since worked with Heritage since Friday morning, leading up to yesterday at 11 o'clock. What would have been received to the committee before 11 o'clock was a cover letter from Jacob at the committee, along with a red line variance altering our change to the length, a revised heritage report, and revised drawings. If the reason I'm bringing this up right at this moment is if the committee does not have that, we have hard copies if you'd like, or we can put it on our presentation.
Just a moment, please.
It has been filed, yes.
So we do have those materials in our supplementary.
Excellent. We've spoken with them this morning, and everything that's been changed is minimalizing what we originally were proposing. Yes. Well, that's the only variance. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So the variances, it's the depth.
It's only the depths, yes.
Just for my clarity then, so we are dealing with five variances requested.
Yes, sir.
I'd like you to go through the five, please, citing not the ones that don't change, but just citing the ones that do change. If you could begin by pointing out what the changes are to the five variances, if any.
It's only number 2. The permitted maximum building depth for a townhome is 14 meters. The altered townhouse has a depth of it was 15.6. Now it's 15. Yes.
On number 2. Thank you very much. Carry on with your presentation, please.
Okay, so when the notice came in, this property is not under heritage, but rather than oppose and start an argument, we decided to work with the department instead of against it. And we agreed with them that we were going to salvage the existing form, which was one of the requests, which was the concern from Heritage. So if you'd put the diagram 1 up. If you notice, the green represents the existing form of the house that exists there. And what we've proposed was to build 2 stories behind the peak, so nothing is noticed, not affecting the form of the structure. And we have suggested a 3rd story beyond the rear slope in the back. This was acceptable to Heritage as per the notice that came in, which we have a copy for if you haven't had that if you don't have that yet. Diagram 2. If you notice, the green outlines what is existing there. So we are only looking to extend the square at the back. We're not looking to add an addition to the house in length or anything. So the variance that we are looking for of 15.09 is we're tied to, you can see above the green line, the line of the house above, like to the north, and they are attached at that point. So we didn't want to shorten the existing length, leaving a portion of their house exposed. We also didn't propose to elongate the home. The norm in this neighborhood is 17 meters in length, but we just left it at, we thought it was good for the structure of the house to keep with the existing. Number 3, Ashley. This is the perspective of the street view from, which would be the view from our side. So with the 3rd floor addition, that would be all you'd see at the back from our side. You see a little bit more from the other side of the sidewalk, but that is the idea behind it. We're not looking to put an addition right on the sloping part right at the front. We're looking to do it set back.
Sidewalk in front of the house.
Yes. Yes.
3rd.
Yes. Yes. We have that in on the phone. If you want variance on that, we can show you the lines drawn to that. Okay. Number 4.
We've asked you some questions, so I'm going to let you have a little extra time, but you do need to be moving.
I'm just about completed. So this one here, if you notice, the green roof at the front is what's existing. The yellow is a 2nd floor addition and will not be visible from the street, and the pink is a 3rd floor addition at the very rear of what was an addition to the house. And finally, the 5th diagram. Our first variance talks about height. We're not asking for a height variance on this property. We are within the 10 meters allowed. What we're asking for is the sloped roof. So if you look at the red line, that would be by right what is allowed if we slope the roof. Because we want to have a squared off frontage, this variance has been triggered. The fact that, if we sloped it, it would go away, but we're so far set back. And even in our original proposal, we were set back, so planning has not had any issues with that. And the other 3 variances.
It just confused me because it's for a sidewall variance. So the sloping of the roof has nothing to do with it.
So how you have it, that's incorrect, actually.
It's incorrect. So can you say
So the permitted maximum height of all side exterior main walls facing the side lot line is 7.5 meter. That's where the eaves are.
Yes.
So on a house on this structure, you get either these sides can be sloped or those sides can be sloped. The other 2 sides can be straight. So in this situation, if we sloped it from there, we would fall within our eaves we would be able to meet the 7.5. So it is not the allowable height in the neighborhood is 10 meters, and we are working within that height.
the overall height is 10 meters and you're working within that, but you still need a sidewalk.
Yes, that's where I'm speaking of. So, but the slope would eliminate that.
Okay.
And this drawing simply illustrates what would be allowable, but that isn't your proposal. Your proposal is...
Yes, so the red is proposed, but only what's colored in purple is what is proposed.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I will ask you to stop there, and we shall go to the first...
question first?
Oh, yes, we do have some questions for you, applicant.
Could you go to your first drawing? I do not understand the dotted line.
The dotted line?
You had a-
The blue dotted line?
No, you had a site plan.
Oh, site. That's the existing, yes. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? Let's carry on to the first speaker then. In concern. Good morning.
My name's Renee Deegan. I live at 9 Palmerston. I'm one of the 4 row homes that 11.5 Palmerston is part of. I'm here today about the proposed development of 11.5 Palmerston and the submitted minor variance, specifically the supporting document dated February 25th, 2020 that was just submitted only yesterday due to the Heritage Committee concerns. So I'm speaking about the new plans. The general intent and purpose of the city's official plan will not be maintained by this variance, as ground space will be removed by the variance application of Chapter 1010 40 81 A, B, and C. This is a loss of green space, as was noted on the floor plan where they were filling in from the existing, and there are no new plans for the replacement of this green space. The height from 7.5 to 10 is still a major issue for most of the community. I'm speaking on behalf of 15 Palmerston, 24 Palmerston, and 19 Palmerston specifically today. The conceptual drawings show that the third floor set back 28 feet as barely visible from the street. This drawing is inaccurate and misleading. I had a TV antenna that was at least 9 meters in the same spot of where that proposed third floor will be, and it was most definitely visible from the public realm. The Heritage Committee had stated that they were only okay with a minimal view of that third floor. Also, the proposed increase from a 1-level home to a 3-level home is not keeping with the surrounding community, and both the height and the distance between the homes that the developer is trying to circumvent will eliminate the city's mandate of providing generous distances between units to allow adequate access to sunlight, sky view, and privacy, especially in regards to 15 Palmerston, where they're on the south side of 11.5 Palmerston, and they use their whole backyard for gardening space. The proposal is not appropriate for the development of the land or building, as the row of these 4 bungalow homes have become rare and unique and are very important to defining the supporting character of Palmerston Avenue. This box proposed for a third floor will not have a positive impact and will look like all the other box extensions that we see being built within the city to bypass city zoning and heritage bylaws. The variance requests are not minor, especially when taken as a whole. From the perspective of most, this request is certainly not because of any kind of hardship for the investors that own this home. We are not talking about a request for a growing family who need a small addition and can't afford to move, or a disabled homeowner that requires a specific alteration that might not fit within the bylaws. The application's reason is simply because of lot restrictions and building type. Since 1871, when these homes were built, several families throughout the almost 150 years have worked within these city bylaws without any issue. What is the point of having a bylaw if developers can simply have them lifted for profit? In conclusion, I feel all variance requested in this application should be denied, as there is no environmental benefit or significant green space increase. There's no improvement in regards to alleviating house costs and supply issues, and most importantly, that the original design that had been appreciated and passed on for almost 150 years have left a good mark on the streetscape and should remain as such. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just a moment, please. We'll see if there are any questions for you.
Okay. They're all on the file. Oh, they're here. They're here.
Okay.
So we've got 15, 19, and 24. Yes, unless they have anything to add. Thank you.
Excuse me, just if you could, we got a sense generally, but the actual impact in terms of the impact of what this proposal, if approved, would mean to you and your enjoyment of your house in the same row, how would it impact it?
Specifically, mine is not as affected as 15. They are going to be shadowed by the third level floor. And since they use their whole backyard for gardening, that's a great concern for them specifically. And then the structural integrity of the development, which I know we're not supposed to discuss today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Christopher Gerard, and I'm the owner at 11 Palmerston. And I live there with my family. We've lived there for coming up on about 10 years at this point. I have a couple points that I want to cover, and I'll be brief. I know the other side is well represented, but I felt that I wanted to have my views known. I want to thank the owner, Nicholas. He made every effort to contact us over the last couple months, and he spent hours catering to our schedule to be able to talk with us. He's come to our house on weekends, evenings. Basically, we work full-time jobs. We have a young son who goes to daycare right around the corner from us. And Nicholas has, I felt, bent over backward to explain everything to us and walk us through the process and what he intends to do with everything. The other point that I have is that I think that this area is rapidly changing. I respect where it's been in the past, and I love it. That's part of the reason that we moved there in the first place. But if you look at some of the proposals that are coming for places like the corner of Queen and Bathurst, which is about 200 meters away from us, so it's extremely close, and then down Bathurst, there's massive, 8 to 17-story buildings being proposed. So I think that we're in a place that it's inevitable that there will be some change. I think views of downtown will change way beyond our control. So I'm just acknowledging that. My main concern really is I look at my own property and I think about my young family, and while these properties may have served people in the past, there have been a lot of renters over the past 150 years, and people that are there. It used to be an area with factories and people would sleep in small rooms. As a place to raise a modern family, if you don't want to do a lot of it in your basement, which we don't, I don't think that you can do anything other than go up if you want to stay with the existing form. So, when I think about what he's doing, what I think about what we may consider in the future, it's really about making these houses sustainable for families and children in the future. The school, Charles G. Fraser, is about, less than 200 meters from the house as well. There's a lot of young families, and we're very concerned about having more space. We think that we looked at the original plans and we thought that's a lot of space, but we looked at these revised plans and how they really respect the view historically of everything. We look at also the space that they'll create to have potentially more people living there. And you ask about the impact that this has. This really changes everything. It means that instead of, trying to raise a family maybe in a basement or something, it's being able to have nice open space, having light come in, and it's really a life-changing impact. So that's why I'm speaking. It's partly him, but it's also for the neighborhood. I think that if you just walk out my front door and you look across, you see everyone with 2 or 3 levels of housing, and they've been there for a long time. There's a huge tree just immediately north of us that probably goes 5 stories or something like that. I haven't measured it, but it's absolutely huge. So I think that's what I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any questions of the speaker? Thank you very much. Okay, then, I'll ask the applicant to return. And, yes? Rebuttal? Do you wish to speak to the committee? I'm going to allow this because there's quite a number of you. So if you wish to speak to the committee, I'll allow you 3 minutes. If you have something new to add.
Yes. So my name is Ines Rodriguez, and I'm speaking on behalf of my parents, Martino and Luisa Rodriguez, who live at 15 Palmerston Avenue. 15. So the developer only started coming around 3 weeks ago. So the house was sold back in March or April. That's when he was obligated to actually have a meeting, especially with the immediate neighbors, to tell us what exactly was happening. That didn't happen until 3 weeks ago, and that's only when the actual proposal was mailed out.
Thank you. So you weren't consulted early enough.
That is correct. And I also was raised at 15 Palmerston Avenue, and it's a 3-bedroom house, living room, kitchen, bathroom, and it was quite adequate for us then, and I don't see why it's not adequate now. I also think that bungalows in general is being, there's a niche for it that, builders come in and they feel that they can profit from the actual land space, and that's what they're doing. So, there are people who, as we know, the housing market is expensive, and this allows for homeowners who are just moving into becoming a homeowner, and also for my parents who are obviously they're retired. Being able to live in a one-floor house is obviously conducive for them to go about their everyday living. So I think bungalows in general are just not being credited for what the value that they do have. And my parents are avid gardeners, and there will definitely be shadowing in the back where all their vegetables are being grown.
Comments appreciated.
Thank you.
So I'll ask the applicant to address concerns raised. They seem to, there was concern about the third story element of this, visibility from the street, shadowing. The third story seems to be a big part of the concern on the part of the neighbors. Please address that. So
First off, I'd like to, as Chris mentioned, we had several discussions with him. We did attempt to reach out to the other neighbors as well. For the lady who spoke, as she knows, we only were notified that the parents basically live in the basement. So for several times we have knocked upstairs on the door, and we have tried to, we've put our best foot forward to try to communicate with everybody. And we have left the numbers with the other neighbors, with the lady's parents, and also with the Renee here from the corner, but we have not been responded to. So I cannot go beyond that for anything. And judging by how fast we reacted to Heritage, I hope that would be a good enough sense that we are willing to work with the community on situations. A comment about the green space. We are closing off the back there. What we're closing off is only a walkout. So there isn't really any grades, an existing grade, like it's cement right now. We're not losing any green space currently. And we are, the old proposal we had a green roof on it. This has been put together so fast, but the likelihood of putting a green roof is something we do in the majority of our developments nowadays.
You are building, just to clarify, you are building a laneway suite as of right, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's happening at the same time?
Yes, sir. Yes. Again, the 3-story is, where they talk about this, the neighborhood is full of 3 stories. So it is works with the neighborhood, right? And we did send something over to Heritage. They were in approval with it. We sent the computer diagram showing the views. So, that's something we are asking. We're looking for 10 meters, but we're only going within there. The last thing I'm going to comment about that one is this area is allowed 100% coverage, 1.0 coverage. Our original proposal was 94% coverage, and we're now asking for 83% coverage. We're not looking to maximize or be the greedy developers or so on and so forth as we're commenting. We're looking to do something that works within the context. The last part I'd like to comment is that we have they've spoken about the shadow. If you look where I've drawn the circle on the site plan, that's where the sun rises and travels this way over the neighborhood. it's impossible for our third floor addition to shadow anything but their roof. It doesn't, we're not, our line of the back of the house still is in line with the line of their back of the house. So the shadow, the sun doesn't rise in the southwest. It's basically, so I don't know how to comment on that one otherwise. That's it. Thank you.
What percentage of your proposal does the third story part represent in terms of percentage?
It's approximately a 20 by 20 cube, call it that. Give it a little bit more, so 400 square feet. Ashley, I don't know if you can do the quick math. 422 square feet.
Other questions of the applicant? Maybe we'll take this into committee for... Oh, go ahead.
Let me just make a comment rather than a question. I think, sorry, I did Renee's comments. And this is just my own personal sense of comment as far as heritage is concerned. These homes are very old. I think one of the challenges we have in the city of Toronto is that anything historical is disappearing rapidly. And any society without a sense of history is, in my opinion, kind of doomed. And I do look at this proposal from that lens as well. And therefore, I think that Renee and her colleagues' concerns are.
Well, if I can comment on that, again, this is not a heritage lot currently, as we proposed currently.
Not officially heritage.
No, they just noticed it. And we worked with Ann Fisher, who's the director of the heritage, to put something in that, if I can... If I can just read... on what Ann Fisher had sent in, the policy framework. The revised proposals will result in a development that conserves the cultural heritage values, attributes, and character of the on-site heritage resources located at 11.5 Palmerston Avenue. Therefore, the proposal conforms to the heritage policies in the growth plan and is consistent with the heritage policies in the provincial policy statement and has regard for Section 2D of the Planning Act. The proposal conforms to the city's official plan heritage policies. Further, what I would just like to comment on that, all four of these houses, they don't look... the work that's been done to them over the years, that's probably why they have never been deemed heritage. Different people come in and put big sheds in front, different roof dormers, so on and so forth to it, that they're not actually in line with what they originally were. One of my proposals, like discussing with there, this is just a discussion, they want the form kept, but one of our intentions is as we work it, we would restore that. What you also get from heritage is the possibility of a grant, in which case the neighbors would be able to benefit from that as well, if they would be willing to, in such a way that this could actually be brought back to the form that it could be, like that it originally was. And we were very careful to propose the third floor addition, not so many houses in the front. When you have the slope, they start their development back here, right here, so it's very intrusive. We were very cognizant of the slope of the house being like this.
Thank you.
And the roof, we only coming behind at this point.
Thank you very much. At this stage, we should take it into committee and open up that discussion to the committee members. I can open my own view on that, which is that the laneway suite is as of right, but the laneway suite will take place. And so with that, with what's proposed that requires the variances, the end result, in my view, is not desirable. It approaches being an overdevelopment of the site, and I would have concern with it, and I would be moving to refuse it. Other comments?
Concur with Chair. Consider the laneway suite
I have concerns about the sidewall height, in particular in this context of this row of townhomes, which are all single story. I think it's of that immediate context. And I think there are impacts for the neighbors on either side in that row of townhouses. So I have concern about the impact on neighbors.
I feel that what we have before us today is better than what was originally proposed, and I'm happy to see that the existing front facade is being maintained. I also think the comment from, and I've forgotten your name, gentleman with Chris, is a valid one, which is that these are very small houses, and that over time there probably is going to have to be revisions made to them to accommodate growing families. And by that I don't mean 4-bedroom houses with great rooms, and I mean what you get in the further reaching suburbs. But just to raise a family in these houses is probably going to mean some changes. My concern is somewhat similar to Mrs. Valentini's. I think the form that's proposed is intrusive given the neighborhood. I don't agree with the Heritage report that you won't see this. More inclined to believe the lady that talked about her television antenna being seen on the sidewalk. So my concern is more with how this is being done, given as well that there's a laneway suite being provided, which I think accommodates the additional needs for housing in the area. So I'm not supportive of the proposal as I have it before us now, but I also realize that this isn't an easy decision. I think revisions will be made, need to be made, but they need to be made within the context. I don't think that's the case. Personally, not.
I'll bring a motion forward for refusal based on my.
Motion to refuse by Ms. Valentini. Is there a second to that motion? All those in favor? The application is refused.
Just a reminder, there is the option for appeal. If you want to be notified of an appeal, you'll have to fill out a decision request card, and then we'll mail you a copy of the decision.
It moves on to application number 17-241, Quebec Avenue, please. With the applicant and those to speak in interest, please come forward. We'll ask those that are from the previous application to vacate the hearing room quietly, please. Now, I'll just check you persons. Do you all wish to speak? Yeah, okay. That's what we're here for. And you're all speaking in opposition to the... Okay.
I'll explain.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Just a second. Now, of the three of you, how many will be speaking? How many wish to speak? 1, 2. Okay. Very good. I'll ask this gentleman... I'll ask you to speak first because you're speaking in support. This gentleman to speak second in opposition. You're both in support now.
With some changes.
In that case, I'll allow you each 3 minutes. Carry on.
Okay, hello, city staff, committee members, and Mr. Chair. Based on the variances presented for this application, there's 4 variances. And in the variances, we find they're minor in nature and meet the official plan.
You're just going to have to introduce yourself so they know who's...
Oh, sorry. My name is Jeff Jansen. I'm the authorized agent. My apologies. I should know this. I know I missed that one. Sorry. Usually I've done a lot of these. So basically, the 4 variances that were requested, we feel are minor in nature and meet the official plan. We were presented by staff late yesterday on a potential opposition, which was granted or put forward in front of the city. which would be the residence Diana Mark to the south side. Since that notification, we have sent them some drawings with some red line changes, which we'll present over in the overhead screen to show where we delegated or had our discussion this morning and came to a resolution. So this is a particular property. We're looking for a, I guess, so-called third-story addition.
Excuse me, just one moment, please.
Yes, sir.
Please take that conversation outside of the hearing room.
Just going to point. These are red line comments.
Okay,
Sorry,
just
sir.
ask you if you
Yep.
would, are you making any changes to your variances?
We are going to make changes, which I have 3 drawings that we'd like to submit, which we want to just show how we derived them with the neighbors.
Let us then, you have 4 variances, let us then walk through those which change, and if you would inform committee, please, of your proposed changes to variances.
Okay. Right now,
Before you start that, I'm even back at the purpose of the application. What I have before me is a 3-story building in terms of plans. Is that correct?
that's correct based on the requirements here. Now,
It's described as a 2-story addition to a 2-story.
it's an addition, that's correct, because we're adding into the roof space with dormers. They're classifying that external wall as a 3-story wall.
Okay, and is that existing now? Is it being used for habitable space now?
Right now, upstairs, no. It's a
So
2-story dwelling with a roof on it right now.
Okay, and you're proposing to have 2-story dwelling with
Inside the roof, in the roof space, the roof to come off, and habitable space in the roof to accommodate the growing family needs.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, the notice went out saying that it was a rear 2-story addition.
That's right. It's a 2-story addition, still at the back, right? But there's, in the second story of the roof, maybe I can call up the drawing to show you.
Is it classified as a 3-story or a 2-story?
No, it's not classified down as 3-story. When we applied with a 2-story with living space within the
2.5.
attic.
2.5.
Yeah, so, okay. So as far as the variances, I'll walk through the variances. We have not changed.
Just the ones that change.
Yeah, we have not changed any variances. What we've changed is some of the design to accommodate the neighbor's needs, if that helps. So what we like to do with our 3 changes to the drawings, we like to make them binding to the approval process if that's possible, so that what we changed was a bit of the floor plan design and elevation to satisfy the neighbor's concerns.
Do you have marked up drawings?
I have marked up and I have drawings that are changed. So I'm going to show the markup drawings, and I have original drawings that are changed, 3 drawings. So if I walk you through the process, then maybe this committee can decide how they would like to go with the step.
Are these major revisions?
Not major, no, sir. They're very minor. When I talked to the city staff, they said it was too late to submit revised drawings. He said, bring revised drawings with you, and I can explain. Once you see them, you'll see they're minor, if that helps. Okay, if I can continue, is that all right? This is a site plan.
Carry on.
Okay. So I'm just going to demonstrate where we made changes. Sorry, it's a little bit confusing. In the site plan here, outside, see this dotted line here? That used to be part of a former all the way out. We got rid of that area. So we want to demonstrate. We cut this back in like here. Former. Revised drawings I brought in today. Okay. This side over here, the gentleman that's here as well, that was going to Andrew, he's north. Adrian. We've explained to him what's happening here. He's okay with this proposal as it's lighting. Okay, with the lighting concern, this is a private matter. Another committee member, we've opted to do a private agreement that we would honor putting in a sun tube right into his property, and also look after any drainage issues on this side. Okay. This drawing here, okay, this is the south side. Okay. On the original proposal, if you follow my finger, this wall would go here and cut in here. This wall would come down here and cut in here. We removed that entirely. So the only protrusion is this portion here facing the south side. So we've made revisions drawing in here and here. It does not change the variance though. What it changes is the aesthetic look from the south side neighboring property on their view. It does change the floor area, but it doesn't change the ratio. It's such a minor change. We're 0.7 requirement for the floor space ratio. It works out to like, when you round it off, it's still 0.7. It's only 5 meters squared area. So in hindsight, this whole dormer for headroom for the stairs and washroom used to go all the way to here and here. What we've done is cut it back and taken it out of the equation here and allowed the main roof to slope down. So what we propose, this is the front of the house here. Yes. The dormer here on the south side that we shortened up on the side of the house, and this is the one on the north side. When you look at the floor plan here, it makes it better. This is the actual change drawings we brought this morning that we'd like to make binding as part of the agreement that gets approved today by committee. This used to be a wall area and a wall area. We pulled these walls in, and they're actually within the gable roof on the front elevation. Those two walls are that dotted line right here and going currently in this gable, right in. So the only protrusion is this portion here that's still remaining. It doesn't change the variance. What it changes is it doesn't go here or here anymore. This elevation, so it's showing it not here anymore or here. Before, this used to go all the way to the front and back.
I'm going to ask you to do your summary, please.
Okay, so basically, the variances have not changed. We've changed the aesthetic look of the proposal to accommodate the neighbors on the south side as far as their concerns. We've met this morning, went through that with these proposed changes. So what we're asking the committee, if it's possible today, if they move the motion to approve this variance, that sheets A4, A4, 5, and 6, dated February 25th, 2020, be inserted and replaced with the proposal that was put forth, and that the proposal is binding to the approval of these changes.
Thank you. Let's
Thank you.
hear from the neighbors.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, sorry, Mr. App.
We're trying to find a feasible way of incorporating those changes because the drawings you showed are going to confuse people. The site plan has all sorts of changes all over it.
The site plan doesn't change.
My understanding is that most of the changes are the third floor plan.
That area there on that one side, that's correct.
And then
the dormer, instead of being this wide?
Okay, and then the only other thing I didn't understand, that was to address people on one side. The gentleman on the other side, you mentioned, is concerned about light. What change are you?
Nothing changed there. What I explained was the amount of space, so it was the interpretation of the drawing. So we...
In fact, the only change that would...
Physical change is south side.
Confuse this, because the site plan that you showed us with all the changes on it, I think would be terribly confusing.
No, the site plan...
Basically, you're suggesting that the third floor plan be as proposed today.
Correct. It's the site plan, I'm sorry for my confusion, was to redline to demonstrate to the neighboring homeowners exactly where these lines fall into play. Because some people can read drawings, some can't. So that was the intent of the red line drawings. I apologize for the confusion.
Let's hear from the neighbors.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Yes. Hello. My name is Diane Leahy. I'm here with my husband, Mark, and we live at 239 Quebec Avenue. We are here today in support of, based on the changes of the dormer. In general, that south wall was approximately 40 feet long, and it's now been shrunk to 20 feet. It is, to our surprise and certainly gratefulness, that we did file an objection on Friday, not to miss out on the deadline, because we had not spoken to the neighbor at 241, and we had done our homework prior to that. So we managed to meet on Saturday, just passed, and explained our concern, and to our surprise, our neighbors were extremely forgiving that they had not consulted with us prior to this day and would be accommodating to fix anything that was, of concern to us. Certainly, these changes may have not addressed your variance, which we were objecting at 1 and 2, and because we now have compensated as mentioned, through aesthetics and sight lines and light, that we fully support this. And it does, now that the dormer has been shrunk, it does really fit in to the neighborhood. Our home is a 2.5-story home, and Adam and Anna, the owners of 241, are the 5th owners of this home since Mark and I have been living there in 2003. And we've always guessed who's going to fix it, who's going to fix it. It's a small home. And what they're doing is building their dream home in the neighborhood. And we're very pleased that they are our neighbors doing this. So we certainly hope that the variances can be considered in a favorable manner today for them to start the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the other neighbor, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Adrian Thatcher, the neighbor on the north side. My wife and I live at 243 Quebec. And just as Diane said, in our discussions with Adam and Anna, we came to a good resolution. We initially had a bit of a problem with the first variance and the height and how much that would block the sun from us and the light coming in our windows. But we have since come to understand a bit better about the design. And they've kindly offered to help us put some solar tube in, which will make a big difference. The other thing we had a concern on, and Jeff alluded to this, is the drainage. Because the extension will have an extra built form, say in the back, there's a very small area between our two houses. Water collects there already. And with more building, the water will accrue even more, like in a very heavy rainstorm we get quite often now. And so we had a concern about where that water is going to go, because right now the water goes where there isn't an extension. With the extension, so what do we do? But Jeff has come up with a solution for that, and we just want to make sure that that's part of the plan going forward. It's okay.
You can only deal with the variances before us.
That's fine. Just want to mention that, though. So, yeah.
Just so you understand that.
Okay.
So you're in support at this stage?
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
comments. Questions, gentlemen? Thank you. Applicant, please. I guess there's nothing to rebut there.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, can we get the revised square meters for variance number 3?
Applicant, what we need to do now is to simply try to see if we can simplify these changes in a way that is easily understandable by somebody that wasn't here today. That's what we've got to achieve.
Yes, sir.
To be able to deal with this.
Okay, so item 3, the new area will be reduced by 5.5 meters squared. So the new area will be 259.75 meters squared. It'll still be 0.7 times with rounding off, okay?
259.75 meters squared.
That's correct, sir. As far as working with the neighbors, with Adrian on the north side, we will undertake a private agreement. It's nothing to do with the committee adjustment, so we will honor our word with the gentleman to the north.
And then, Mr. Chair, if we could get a clean copy of the revised third floor plan.
Now,
Today.
this is a drawings A4, A5, A6.
No, I think we just need, you're only making the change to the third floor?
The 3 drawings.
Oh, third floor, okay.
The dormers.
Can I, no, yeah, just the clean copy. I don't want the red lined one. But they'll be as filed today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you a question.
That one. And we don't have the other, we don't have the left side. It should be north or south normally, but they both change.
Which elevation is this one that you're changing?
This is the old one.
No, the new one. Show me the new elevations. Show the reduced dormer. Which one is that? Is it right or left? Because you don't have them by...
North or south?
Labeled right elevation.
Which is north or south?
South, sir.
Okay, and that just shows the reduced dormer. Yes, that one.
That's the reduced, which I'm submitting today.
So I think if we did that one in the
Only the south elevation changes.
South elevation and the floor plan. We'd just like to say, in wrapping it up, we really appreciate the neighbors, Adrian, Mark, and Dan, coming out today and taking the time this morning and spending the time to come up with a resolution. Adam is looking forward, residing in the home with his family. And like I mentioned, it's great to work with the neighbors because at the end of the day, there's a long process here. We all want to be happy neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now take this into committee, and I'll be looking for a motion.
Okay. I'm ready to go.
Let's go with the motion,
It's nice to see neighbors work together, so that's
Thank you.
That's refreshing that everyone's come to a compromise. On that note, I think that the proposal as revised is in keeping with what's going on in the neighborhood. It meets the 4 tests, so motion is for approval, subject to it being built substantially in accordance with 2 drawings that were filed today. And there are no other conditions. Yes, subject to that as well, yes.
I said the
That's right,
attic
as
currently
revised.
is not occupied as habitable space, that's correct? Yes.
It's an attic. No habitable space, that's
Right,
correct.
so I've added that and to convert the attic into habitable space by constructing side dormers, and that'll be fit in there, okay?
Very good. So motion by Ms. Valentini, as revised. Second by Mr. Nipfel. All those in favor? And the application so revised is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Congratulations. Doing it now. It's happening right now.
Oh, we don't
Try and
need
make
to
this
revise.
quick.
Is this being revised, or do we need this?
No, it's just presentation material.
Are there persons here in interest on number 18, which is 26 Croydon?
No, I will next time, I promise. There's no one here in interest. There was a gentleman here who had a concern about a tree in the far rear of the property. So basically, as much as I'd love to talk about this, staff was in support. We had some other letters of support from some neighbors, and I'm happy to address any questions that you might have. The neighbor was concerned about a tree.
Rather than a presentation, we will then view this as an uncontested application, and so there may be questions for you of panel. Any questions of panel?
No.
In that case, I shall look to, if there are no questions, I shall look to committee for a motion on this application number 18.
I think the building that exists there in the area, and I have no difficulty with the application. Like,
Motion to approve by Mr. Nipfel, subject to forestry provisions, seconded Ms. Valentini. All in favor?
Thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch. No, it's good. You can hold on. Thanks so much.
And that does
190.
our morning agenda.
So through you, Mr. Chair, may I suggest that, 10 minutes is probably not sufficient for a break?
Right.
And I know the hearing is supposed to start at 1:30, but maybe we could reconvene at, what's reasonable, 2 o'clock? Or is that too long?
2 would be ideal to get something done.
1:45?
Would it be helpful to do a review of the
Quarter
one?
to two? You
It
can
would take
leave.
10 minutes, but
But it's not 1:30. We can, okay, we can,
We're not going to know what we're doing.
Right.
If we did 1:30 and we...
okay, we can do 1:30.
Mr. Chair. Well, I'm just thinking if you...
As long as I have quorum, if you need to go, you can go. And if the other gentlemen don't mind staying, we have quorum, you can do the,
That was a long time.
Well, if you just